so slow.
You gonna shoot this thing or get it pregnant? It isn't gonna work. It doesn't aim right. You dick.
Yeah.
Oh, what a crazy season, man.
Epic.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this, man. Like, I thought I wasn't gonna like the show overall, but I was like, wow, this is. I need someone to review this show with me. And Crippler, you stood up and you were like,
Yo, Black Joe here. Black Joe will help you out.
this was Crippler's idea, by the way.
I got my backpack. Let's go. We're gonna go through this apocalypse together. Casual's the new Ellie, baby. I'm gonna get you there. You're the future. I gotta protect you at all costs.
Oh man. But I always do this with all the seasons and shows or movies that we review. Mm-hmm. This is kind of like, I don't know, pointless, but I love telling people there's spoilers ahead. And I'll give you guys a minute or two. But without spoiling it, did you love it? Did you enjoy it? Did you like?
Overall thoughts, I think it was one of the best video game adaptations ever made. I loved it. But there was room for improvement. Like the bringing that world to life in some aspects, they did it like absolutely perfect. Some stuff was line from the game. Overall, I think it could have used more infected. I think when they were being additive to it, like adding stuff, like we'll talk about the opening and all of that stuff, I think it works because it was more foreplay to what people were expecting in the game, and it gave you more context. And when they did that, it was perfect. But when they changed things and replaced some stuff that I was looking forward in the game, that's where it was sort of like, those were the ones that I enjoyed the least. But overall, I think it was a fantastic series, and I'm excited for season 2.
Me too. I've never played the game. Like, I've never ever played the game. I've always wanted to play the game, but video games, when they're single player, it takes longer for me to finish because I'm just not bored, but I just like.
He's like,
I'd rather play like Overcooked with somebody, you know?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I can't play Overcooked with my family. We get in like, we don't ever really argue or have fights, but when we play Overcooked, it's like,
yeah, it's over.
It's right there. Like, get over there. It's like, no.
But overall, I thought this was a great series. Like I watched it all last week, today, last night.
Yeah.
And like Pedro Pascal, you know, like I gotta support the prettiest man alive right now. Yeah.
That is the way. This is the way, yeah.
But like so far, great. I know I just watched it, but man, like I'm deep inside, like pause, but I'm deep inside that world right now. I don't know if this is a good question to ask, but should I play the game or should I just wait for the for us to keep going?
No. Oh, you talk about the sequel?
Mm-hmm.
I think you should. I think that's the thing. I don't think this show replaces the game for me at all. I think the game, a lot of the heavy beats, I think the game did better only because you were playing and that bond with Ellie comes across stronger in the game to me because you spend a lot of times in the show with other perspectives, and those perspectives don't really lean that much to the development of Ellie and the development of Joel. Like you had like 2 or 3 episodes, like when they introduced Kathleen, that was just about Kathleen, and you get it, you understand it for them, and then for Henry and Sam, but you're not spending time with Joel really right there. Whereas the game, you're always with Joel and Ellie until you're not. And so when the thing happens at the end, it hits harder, it hits more. Or even when Sam and Henry, what happens to them, it just hits harder in the game. Still hits hard in the show, don't get me wrong. But when you play through that and you spend all of that time with them and develop that relationship, and you're the person that has to do the thing at the end, and we'll get to the end later, and you the one being like, I don't want to do this, but you have to, it hits different.
It's like when people compare it to the books, it's more in depth, right? Like the game, I'm guessing, like you get more back and forth, you get everything.
Because with the game, it was crazy because you had a nice what I love about the show is that they took some of the story beats and took them right out the game and added some context, like I said earlier. But what they didn't do was taking it from like a great show to like one of the best shows I ever seen. What's stopping that is they didn't balance the action. Like there's no real reason to go back and watch The Last of Us for action beats. It's all driven by narrative. Whereas you can still go back to the game and be like, oh, I want to approach this differently. Like the action is what drives you. Every time there was an action piece from the game, it was instead of multiple infected and learning about the runners versus the clickers versus the bloaters and all of that stuff. It was more of just one, let's just do it with one clicker. And then when you get towards the end of it, the clickers are non-existent. Like they're not existent. And to me, the game had a good balance of like excellent top tier story with, yo, these clickers, these infected are a threat and they never stop being a threat, right? So like, I think that's the biggest difference from the game and the show to me. And I think the game overall tells a better Last of Us story. I think the show is a great companion to that for some of the things they added, like the news segment or the mom, Anna, when they introduced Anna and just fleshing them out a little more. But overall, like if I haven't played the game, I would have thought this was just freaking a dope ass show. That's why I'm interested in your opinion on it, because you coming from that. Yep.
That's where I'm coming from, man. Like I love it, but just like Just a Bum says, I find it funny that people who haven't played the game or excited for the second season. I just got to say, woof, like you guys are in for some disappointment. Sorry for the spoilers.
I 100% totally disagree with Just a Bum there. I love season 2. Season 2, I think there's an act that happens that disappoints a lot of people, and I think that is just like Game of Thrones. They use that to develop and grow other characters within it. And what happens at the end of this sets up somebody else. And without spoiling too, I can't go too far. You end up hating this person, and you're supposed to. But then the more you play, you finish it. And then the more you play with this character, you're like, I should not like this character. I should hate this character. But then you slowly come around and it's like, oh, I can see a point of view. And to the point of like, I actually ended up loving that person by the end of it. And then when that final confrontation of 2 happens, man, I'm like, that was one of the most emotional video game moments that I ever played in my life, dude. So like, it's divisive though. So like, Just a Bum has his opinion. He's not wrong. I didn't get spoiled on the leaks when that game came out, and everybody hated that game before it even came out for reasons that some were true, some wasn't. But when I played it, I had none of that. So I just enjoyed what they gave to me. And after playing it, I would be on the phone with like 2 or 3 different people that was playing it at the same time and would talk for hours about certain moments in that game, dude. Of like, whoa, and this, and oh my God, when that happened. And like, I've never done that for a game where I'm like talking hours, like after every chapter about certain things that happened that was gameplay driven but mostly story driven. So like, I absolutely love to, and I'm excited to replay that discourse again where everybody watch that first episode. If they do it in that first episode, everybody's going to be like, this is the worst shit ever. And we'll see if they can make people really, we can see if they make people really come around on it like the game did for me, but who knows?
I think we gave enough time for people to know this is a spoilers like ahead. Yeah, I think that's good enough.
Critical matter.
Well, the way we're going to approach this is we're going to do the whole series, but season by season. We're not going to try to take up too much time because this could be, like you said earlier, like could be like 12 hours, 14 hours. So the way I divided this up is season by season. So we're going to go into season 1 right now. And the way I did this too, I added pictures for each season. So, you know, people. Yeah. So from the very beginning, season 1, it's called, the first episode's called When You're Lost in the Darkness. Came out January 15th, 2023. They rated at 9.2. It says 20 years after a fungal outbreak ravages the planet, survivors Joel and Tess are tasked with a mission that could change everything.
Ooh.
It doesn't give you a lot with that
No.
synopsis, but man, like it started off with like, oh man, this is like, it's gonna be like one of those zombie movies where like, you know, you see the happy family. There's like
Yeah.
a little bit of like family issues going on, and then boom, watch the zombies come out of nowhere. But this came out.
So this episode, we start off with the talk show, right? Set in 1968, which captures that thick freaking Cavett show vibe of 60. That's way before your time. But yeah, it's just like these old newscasters. Two scientists are debating like the fungal versus the viral infection and what it means and what is different. Can it really happen? How they introduce the concepts of freaking cordyceps and how they control if it can live in a host on that much heat, how it actually can control, like they said ants, but could it ever happen to humans? And if it was to happen to humans, they was like, yo, if this was to happen to humans, that dude got scared. That news dude was like, we'll be right back. He was like, no, we don't fuck with it. But that was extra context that wasn't in the game that was so good to set up like the world for people who know nothing about it. Here are the rules. Here's what we're hinting at. So everything that comes after this, they be like, oh, like they just inception it in people's head. So like I really like that opening. Like you said, you opened it and you was like, uh-oh, this is gonna be like another zombie show. We say funny? Infected in the hood. We don't say zombies, but yeah.
Jerry says, even though I love Naughty Dog and Uncharted is a top game franchise for me, I could never get into the Last of Us game, but the show hooked me as it became a top favorite. That's crazy. I would think like the game, like you guys, like 3-4 of you guys already said the game is so much better, but you know, Jerry.
Yeah. Because gameplay is such a subjective thing. Like, and it's a genre of game where it's survival, right? And it's tense, and you have to be the one in there. I play these games on the hardest difficulty because it's like, yo, I need to find a thing to make a bandage. I need some rags. I need some this, and that. If you don't like that anxiety, like that you put on yourself, then yeah, you probably won't want to go. But if you can just watch the same story without having to play through it, I think it helps with that. And I think this, for people who don't want to play the game, like my wife, this was the first game where my wife started watching me play it and then was like, can you stop playing and continue tomorrow so I can watch? I was like, no, but I can record it. And we would sit and she would sit. She knew everything about The Last of Us because she watched every cutscene that I recorded for her after my gameplay settings. When she gets off of work, we just go. And that happened with part 1 and 2. And she was like, oh, I've never seen that happen in anywhere. Yeah, because the way they captured, and there was some framing when we get deep into the episode where I feel like the game did it better. But there's some, on the other side of that coin, I think the show did some things better too. So it was just, overall, I think it was a success. But
that's the craziest part. It's like when you have Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, you get spoiled like crazy with like spoilers for an episode. But the crazy thing I saw with the spoilers was like the comparison from the video game to the show. It's like identical scenes.
Word for word in some scenes.
Yeah, word for word
dude.
too, yeah.
And like that with this episode right here that we're talking about, you know, they jumped to 2003. They set up the family dynamic. They set up Joel, Pedro Pascal. They set up Tandy Newton's daughter named Nico Park. She plays Sarah. Tommy, and it's just like this, perfect. Like they set her up, and in the game you just start off as Sarah. You're going around the house, but here you get to see her explore the town. You get to see her explore the Adlers, and what they do really good in the show is they add relationships to where they just alluded them at the game. Like there's no name, you don't get to know the neighbor that burst in, like grandma right there, cray grandma. You don't get to meet her. You don't get to go in her house. You don't get to talk to her son. You don't get to talk to, what's up, homie? You don't get to talk to Connie. You don't get to talk to any of the Adlers, but you do here. You get to see what their life is. The Curtis and the Viper 2 plays a big role in part 2, or a good role in part 2. So they added it here as an Easter egg as the DVD that she was going to be watching with Joe later. So like when the events happen, from the game, you know more about it because of the stuff like this. Like she's doing her homework at the Atlas and all of that good stuff. And they also hinted, I don't know how many hints you put in, but like the first hint was the cookies, like cookies, and she didn't eat the cookies. Oh no, it was the pancake mix. It was the pancake mix of like, hey, hint one, there's no pancake mix, right? And I'm going somewhere with this later. Then hint two, she doesn't eat the cookies. But all of that to say is like that's what started the affection because it came from a factory in Indonesia and it was in their dough. And then even in this episode, he was like, you got some, she's feeding Grandma Ma those biscuits and she's chowing it down. And they was like, you want some biscuits? And Joe's like, yo, I'm on an Atkins diet. So they avoided each one of those scenarios where people were eating dough or breaded foods. And like, I think when you watch it back, you see all of that connect. That's all new.
I was like, saying this, all of this, because he's, it's someone's guess or someone's like,
and the birthday cake.
And the birthday cake.
Yep.
So it was that. Oh, wow. So Just Above says, for me, I'm a huge fan of Last of Us and Uncharted, but I have a huge connection to Last of Us because I remember in 2013 when that game came out on the PS3, it was a huge game changer. I didn't get to play it.
Oh man, yeah. No, but overall, this episode for me it was like this and part two were two of my favorites because it was perfectly executed in my opinion with adding new, not just doing exactly with the game, but adding to the game. And then when you get to the game part, they're in the truck. Oh yeah, they establish him as a smuggler, which is cool. But like, yeah, you're in a truck and they're leaving the Atlas, crazy grandma chasing them, they get in the truck. Then it starts game mode and it's like going down, except instead of a truck crash, it's a plane crash. But all of the dialogue is damn near word for word from it. And it's shot so well, almost from like the perspective of the game. And when she's in that truck, and when that moment in her face, when he's like, oh, she knew she done fucked up. When she says like, when it was like, oh man, this is Jimmy's house or something house. And they used to go to town. They probably went to town and it started in town. And Joe don't know she was in that town. You know what I mean? And then she's like, but you got to go to town a lot, right? Because she knew she just went to town. And she was like, I done fucked up. So she's getting worried. They established that Joel knows how to survive right off the jump because they're like, yo, that kid, we're not stopping for him. We keeping going. And that's a tie into a later episode when they get to Pittsburgh. No, in the game, when they get to Kansas City. And they just sort of like, go, go, go. What up, Adam? But yeah, I think, and then I don't know if you want to elaborate on this, and then we could close out with the death of Sarah. Poor Sarah.
So yeah, I got these screenshots because it starts off like like I said, like family moments, then like having that troublesome teenager with the crazy grandma in the background.
Yeah,
and everything going haywire. They go, like you said, they go in the truck. And right here, this is the moment where Joel goes like, F everybody. My whole purpose of living is gone now. Like, the people who I served with killed my daughter, and now I gotta. He messes that guy up though, but still, he like. Well, he loses his daughter, and then it's funny because Pedro Pascal, like, he goes from like being 28 to like 52.
Look at that magic. That's crazy.
I know. I wish I looked this good if when I'm 52.
Oh man!
But then, like, you get
we meet Marlene.
Yeah. Hey, man, I didn't get this scene because I never played the game, and I was like, I'm picking this girl because I wasn't sure if this was the Ellie like from the video game. A big thing with when I kept reading about this was like Ellie isn't pretty enough to be the Ellie from the video game, and I was like, are you guys serious? Like, are you guys saying like this character from Game of Thrones who was queen of like this
Lady Mormont? Put some respect on Lady Mormont.
I know. Name. I was like, I gotta watch this now. Like, this is Ellie for me.
Yeah, I think what happened was she was modeled, even though they probably changed it a little later. She was modeled. What's the lady name that was in Juno, and she was in the X-Men.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. She just had
Yeah,
that
so
sex change and everything. Yeah.
yeah, they modeled it after her in the beginning, and then but later, especially towards in the remake that they did of the game, and in part 2, they made it look more like Ashley Johnson, who voice acts her. But where, yeah, and you can see like there's a difference there. But no, later she starts to look a little more like this. But like, yeah, I talked to my boy about it, and he had the same criticism as that don't look like LA, blah blah blah. But I was like, that's Lady Mormont. She's gonna act the shit out of this role. And she, yeah, Ellen Page. Yep.
Thanks,
So she looks a lot like Ellen Page in the game. In the original one, in the remake that they just did, that comes out on the PC on the 28th, that I'm excited to play through again for the first time on PC. They make her look a little more like Ashley Johnson, and Ashley Johnson has a face of shape more like her than she does Ellen Page. So that's a whole interesting thing they got going on. But I think all of the acting was phenomenal except for Kathleen that we get to when we get to her episode. But I think everybody else's acting was just freaking dope. So here is interesting because this is a change that I understood it, but I preferred the game because you got to meet Robert's gang a little more. And a lot of the times, and this is another critique I have of this show, is that they softened up the characters a lot. Joel is way harder, way harder. There's some stuff that you can't even picture Joe saying that he says here. And then like Tess they tried to like humanize him, but it's the apocalypse and these are not good people. Like Tess is the one that kills Robert straight up, and he was already dead the time you get there, and he shot Marlene, but that doesn't happen. It was less about the battery, it's more about the guns, and the reason they decided to go on this smuggle run with Ellie was because she was going to give them their guns back that Robert sold to them. But like Tess is the one that kills freaking Robert, and it's just a lot more action there. Here the action's already over when you get there, right? So you don't get to see that take place. And there's similar scenes sprinkled out that where they traded action for stuff that was cool and was good, but wasn't as additive to certain people's relationships or the action that was taking place at the time, but make more sense for the story they wanted to tell.
I gotta say something really quick. Like when it comes to females of this show, I've always said this for a very long time. Like females are more powerful, more like mindset than males are. But they don't show it on TV or like on movies. But here you get to see, man, they're so tough, they're so badass, they're so like
in more believable ways than a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, 1000%, man. Yeah. Like I see it from Tess, I see it from Ellie, and I was like, man,
I love this actress playing Tess, dude. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't want to say this by like meaning derogatory, but these bitches, wow.
These bitches cray.
Yeah, they're cray, but the good way. Like I want these girls in front of me. You know?
Yeah, you know why?
Like
because with
battles.
Anna Torv, I think, let me see, I had it here. Yeah, Anna Torv, great actress from Fringe and all of that good stuff. She was so good in this role. Like she was the role that I liked better than Tess in the game because I just loved her acting in it. And also they get beat up. They don't always win. Like Tess gets fucked up. Her face is all big. You know what I mean? Robert and them like did her dirty. She didn't go in there and destroy Robert in the whole game and took her out by herself. She didn't go in there and just went through the whole Firefly camp and just sort of like, yeah, I'm freaking Tess. This is what I do. She was smart in the ways that somebody would be smart and tough in this environment, and that's what I appreciate about the representation that they had of the women in here. And because like people had a big thing with Ellie being gay. I heard new people saying that like right now, like I'm like, this happened way before all of that.
Before the whole movement and everything.
This happened way before that. So like if they would have changed it, it would have been different. And it ties in. So like Yeah, these characters you got on the screen, I think were great. Oh, the moment I seen it, you can't
So
go back
yeah,
now.
towards the end of the episode, they get, all three of them get out of there. They're trying to get back on, like, they're trying to get on a trail, and they run into the cop or security guard, I guess you would say.
A
But
Fedra agent. Well, they'll become Fedra, but yeah, he's just a military agent. Yep.
So this is where you find out that Ellie's infected, and both of them were like, "What the freak? Like, we're walking around with infected, but how? But then the guard or whatever, he's just like, I'm not gonna put up with your crap. We're going back, and they're gonna hang you guys. And then boom, Joel goes crazy.
Yo,
It's like, not again, not again.
I love this. This was another one that was additive, and I love that you could come at it from the approach of never seeing it, and then I can add a little more context from the game, so it gives both perspectives. I think that's dope. So like, here's another one. They established this guard earlier in the episode, and he's originally when this happens in the game, you don't know this guy. It's just the guard. So this hits a little different when you have a relationship with the soldier from smuggling the pills, and then being like, hey, we'll give you half of the cargo of this run if you let us go. There's none of that in there, because it was just sort of like they run out. Tommy saves their life. Oh no, this is a whole different thing. That's when Sarah dies. This is the Ellie one. But yeah, no, this one where he blacks out, he actually knows the person he's killing. We met the person he's killing, whereas the game, he's just an unknown guard. So I appreciate that addition of building creating a relationship and a link between that guard and Joe. I think was a smart choice.
It's crazy,
Go
man.
to bed, Sam.
So the first episode is rated at 9.2. I do this with every movie that we do. What would you rate the first episode of season 1?
9.5 out of 10. Yeah. I love this episode.
Yeah, it lead it off.
Yep.
Man, I was like, Pedro Pascal, Mandalorian's in this, and like he's gonna, he doesn't fail, and he hasn't failed me yet, man.
No, what's funny about Pedro Pascal is like, and then we're going into the next episode now. So the concept of cordyceps is going to be introduced there, and in the game they had the concept of spores, and they didn't want to do spores because of the mask. And I'm like, picture that, the person who on the Mandalorian was like, "Yo, I don't want to wear a mask at all." He's like, "Yo, I'm gonna have to put a mask on. Can we change that?" I don't know if that was his thing, but I found that funny, like that connection of like, no, because in the game you spend a lot of time with the mask because of the spores. They're in the air and they're contagious. But in here they changed it to cordyceps and the underground network of them. But I love this episode. The death, Sarah, like when she freaking died in this episode, it crushed me when and in this scene, you seen how savage this Ellie is gonna be, and it shows the difference between Sarah and Ellie, right? Sarah in this moment was sort of like she was more of a girly girl, and probably would have hated this violence or seeing it. That's why she was like, she can't look, and she's trying to be, covered. Don't look. Whereas Ellie sees Joe start punching the crap out of this guard, she's like,
yeah, she's like, can I do that?
Whoa, this looks fun. Yeah, that was great.
Jerry says, surprisingly good decision from the studio to combine the first 2 episodes into one. Hits so much harder.
Absolutely. I wish they would have learned this mistake from episode 4 and 5. But yeah, because this one right here was perfect. What up, Trey?
Yeah, man. I would give it 9.5 just because, like, it's not perfect, just close to perfect, for me.
Yeah.
I've never played the game, and now I'm just like, right after the first episode, I was like, God damn it, why didn't I play the game? There's so many regrets now,
It did its job of making you like be interested in the series. Like when somebody says, "Hey, recommend this show, watch it." If that first episode don't pull you in, doesn't matter.
I'm not one of those guys that goes like, you have to stay till the 4th or 5th episode.
Yeah,
that's a cool, like. No, hell no.
Yeah. Just wait to episode 6. It all changes. Like, but then I gotta watch 6 crappy episodes to get there. No, thank you. No.
So we're going to go into episode 2, which they
Episode
call
2.
Infected. What came out January 22nd, and the synopsis is: after escaping the QZ, the quarantine zone, Joel and Tess clash over Ellie's fate while navigating the ruins of a long-abandoned Boston. You know what's funny? I've been to Boston twice. I love Boston. I've been to like the bad parts of Boston, the beautiful parts of Boston, and when I saw Boston, I was like, "You gonna do my city like that?" Like, I love Boston. It's so
Apocalypse
walkable.
got it.
Yeah, I'm sure people from Boston were like, "Oh hell no!"
Oh,
We'll fuck 'em up.
dude, let those clickers step foot up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Hey, I forget their language. Ooh.
It starts out with in Indonesia. Like this caught me off surprise. I know a couple people from work that speak. I don't know if it's Indonesian, but they speak that language. And when I heard it, I was like, "That's not Tagalog. That's not like a Thai. That's not." I was like, "That's Indonesian." I was
Indonesia
like,
represent.
you know, it's like HBO. You're going overseas. Hell yeah! And
Oh man, I freaking love this opening too. It's another one that is not in the game, but adds so much layers to it because it's sort of like, I think she's so she's basically she's in mycology at a university over there or something like that. So they call her in, disturb her while she's eating. They don't know what the hell's going on. She's like, "Am I in trouble? Like, did I commit a crime?" And it was like, "No, did you get the right person?" And she just and he just mentioned that her name was Ratna. And she's a professor at she did a great job. I love the actress. But when you get in there, the best part about this whole thing was like she sees the cordyceps coming from the mouth. She looked in the telescope and was like, "Yo, what the fuck is that?" It's like, "We got it from a human." And then they go do the autopsy.
Guys, just like, we need you to analyze this. Yeah. Within like 2 or 3 seconds, she's like, "This is what the fuck?" Like, and then like she goes right to the corpse, and then like she's cutting it, and you see the cordyceps, and then she pulls it out the mouth. She's like, and then she's out, and then like she's like, they explain it, they're talking about it, and they explain like, "Is there a cure?" She's like, "No, hell no." I worked on this my whole life. There's no cure. There's no vaccine.
There's no cure, no vaccine. Shut up. And then she's like, "What should we do?" She goes, "Bum." Bum.
I was like, I don't need subtitles for that.
She's like, "I know what that means," and that's cool because it set up the whole bombing that you see. Like, it gives you an idea of what they did back in Boston, back in America, and all of that stuff, of how they handled it. They bombed the shit out of them, drove them underground, and that's why, and built up the QZs. And then these QZs, they're not small; they're huge. You can live in the city, and they drove them out with bombs and the people that weren't affected, and it gives you more insight to like, yo. Oh yeah, in the last episode they set up Fedra when that kid came to them, and then she was like, "Yo, it's red." It established that they kill anybody, women, children. If you're infected, that's how they controlled it and set up the QZ. And this gives you insight of like, oh, the strategy they took. But when she was like, "Can I go? I just want to be with my family now." You knew you knew it was over. Yeah. And I that's why I love the beginning of this. And this was directed by Neil Druckmann, which the first one was directed by Craig Mazin, who did that show everyone recommends to me, but I have not seen it yet. It's an HBO show. Chernobyl, yeah. He did that. So I purchased that just to watch it because I think he did a great job with this. But he actually directed the first episode, and Neil Druckmann from Naughty Dog, he directed the second one. And this one plays the most like the video game, I think, from like scene to scene as we go into it. But yeah, I think this was a great opening to it, adding more context to what we're about to see later in the episode.
Oh, by far. Like as soon as she says bomb, like she's like rattling the tea, and I'm just like, man,
the tea rattling,
yeah. As soon as she says bomb, I was like, okay, like they're gonna take our advice, but they're gonna ignore her. But then she's like you said, "I want to see my family." I was like, oh, it's like an extra like nice like little touch to it. Yeah,
yeah, man.
You feel the fear. So yeah, the setup is awesome. And then Yeah, we get Ellie speaking to Tess and Pablo, and like he basically they're trying to figure out why she's infected and why it's like so special. Why do you think they transfer her from one city to the next? And
Hmm.
she doesn't even know. She just knows she can't be infected anymore. She's immune.
Yeah, I love this too because this is pretty much like, hey yo, what does Marlene want with an infected kid? Yeah, what is this about and all of this stuff? And it's Tommy's been with the Fireflies before, so they established that Tommy was with the Fireflies, and that I don't want to hear this for the light bullshit. This she's a cure, the savior. She don't want no. Joe's heard it all from Tommy, and he's not about to hear it with her. So he's like, let's just take her back. And Tess is like convince him not to, and so it establishes that okay, they're gonna go forward with it here. And she sees that gun, boy. She's like, "Can I get a gun? I got a free hand." when Joe said no, and she said, "Fuck, fine, I'll hit him with my fucking sandwich." I started cracking up.
Yeah, I was like, is that chicken?
Oh yeah. What I didn't get is like, I guess she can eat bread, but can anybody eat bread now? Because that was bread she was eating, and and Indonesia was one of the biggest that's where like, at least they're trying to establish in the show is that's where a lot of the world was getting their dough from and their bread stuff from, and so that's how it affected in the food. And she was already in the restaurant eating that retina lady, so. But she's eating a sandwich here with bread, and I'm like, okay, I guess she can because she's infected, but like, would they even be having bread around if, I don't know. That's the part that was confusing for me that I didn't figure out.
I think by this time it's 23 years that have passed, so I feel like the new food that they've been making is not contaminated anymore. But yeah, it's a good question.
That could be the case.
But yeah, so like we go through them questioning her, finding out who she is, and blah blah blah. And then this is where I got this one where I was like, Tess is such a badass, man. Like,
so dope. I love Tess so much, dude.
Tess is such a badass that I feel like Joel is following her. Like she's not following Joel. Joel's following her.
Yeah. This was such important dialogue and such good dialogue too, because they talk about the bombing. So it was a great transition as she was talking about bomb, and like King Banana said, slap her, slap her in the face. Like, I need a cure. Yeah. But like they established that, and they talk. You see the bomb, like the freaking craters that they left. You see the destruction, not only by nature retaking back reclaiming the city, but also from the fucking holes that the bombs, the destruction that the bombs did on the city. But the key thing is like when he was like, is there such thing as swarms of infected, super infected that explode spores on you, like after you blow them up? And it was like, no. But when they said infected with split open heads that can see in the dark like bats, these fools got silent because those are the clickers. And they was like, let's just keep moving. They didn't want to answer that question. Just like, just keep moving. But it establishes the multiple different tiers, like, because in the game they call them runners, clickers, and bloaters. I think those are the three that you deal with in the game. In the first part, there's more in the second part. But yeah, no, it establishes like they do exist. Some you might not think exists, but they've heard about them. And later on you find out, I think all three of them was represented, even though they had little screen time, but they were there.
This is also where Ellie is exposed to the outside world, where she sees cities, she sees like, buildings.
Yeah.
It's all new to her. She's been inside that camp forever. So like, but then Tess and then Pablo set up the ground rules, like,
I love how you call him Pablo.
That's Pablo, man. That's my cousin right there.
What up, Pablo?
But like they set up the rules for her, and she's being a teenager. She's being hard to work with. She's being like back talk and all this other stuff. But she's a badass, man. Like, come to find out later, she was born into it. She was molded by even her mom giving birth, killing a zombie on her.
Man, yeah. Ellie's great. And this is, you can see right here where they decided to go on, but you made a great point when you said that she never been outside the wall never been outside the wall. So this is a fish out of water. Everything is wonder. Everything is like, even though it's destroyed, and you'll learn later in episodes where little things that these characters take advantage of, like ever flying on a plane and all of that stuff. That's wondrous to her. Like, they got to do it. She would never get to do that in the current state they're in right now. So, like, I think this is the start of that sense of wonder, which is important for her character going forward.
Definitely. So then we got they they go into this excursion where like they're trying to. I think they're called clickers, right? Like they get in a fight with clickers. Or...
No, we don't get introduced to clickers here. This is the runners, and here they changed the runners to be instead of they have this network that if you touch one, it can alert all of them and run after you. And so they gave them that ability right here. But yeah, this is where so is this at the end? I'm trying to figure out, did this take place after the clickers?
Yeah, this is right after. This is after they like get bit and like
if they got bit already, they met the clickers. So they did so they went to the hotel first, which is usually way later in the game. So that's what confused me. The hotel is not anywhere near this time. That's way later. And so so they get but the museum is right. And so I'm trying to figure out, the hotel is where she wanted to swim and all of that stuff is right out of game. But the museum is awesome because like that shit was scary. That was like the game. You had the clickers. They introduced the clickers, and the clickers move so dope. Like the way they was just like, and then the way the camera went close to Joe's face. So just like the player, you don't know where they're coming from until you look, and then you just see the light going, like, ah!
Yeah.
And freaking, what was crazy too is just sort of like, Joe sucks at this game because my run was way better. I did it all stealth. I was using bricks. I get behind him and just one shot him. There was a disturbant lack of bricks and bottles in this show though, because the game had like most of your kills when you're trying to survive is stealth with bottles and bricks, and there wasn't enough of that. But this was cool. They shoot at the clicker. He shoots, get attacked. But it gets loud, right? They kill one, alerts the other one, and shit's happening there, which was so dope. And then here you go, freaking test character with the axe, bow, got the other one. That scene was so well done, and it was like, oh, they doing the clickers justice. They sound like the clickers, they move like the clickers, and I'm like, I can't wait to get more of them. And then we don't really get too many more clickers after this. It's like, there you go, that's your clicker moment. But for this setup, it was awesome. But then we moved to the hotel, and you know, she's like, this is all new to her, the bell and like all of this crazy stuff, till we get to the Firefly base. And I think this is the Firefly base right here. All of that stuff happened. Somehow along the way, she got bitten. And this is when she reveals that, and it's like such a moment, like right out of the game. And Ellie can tell, she's like, "Oh fuck, she's infected," and like, show me, and she's like, "Woo!" And then you just see all of that shit right there. Yeah, this was awesome. This was different in the game too, and I don't want to keep being again. Well, in the game, like in the comic book, but in the game it was. I forget if it was. I think Fedra was still looking for them, so I don't think it was the Raiders yet. I think Fedra was still looking for Joe, and she dies in that firefight. I actually like this better than the game. I like what they did here because there was no real reason for Fedra to really be chasing them that far with their low reach. They always talk about how, you know, they got to keep it to the city, so they're not going to risk people going. If they out there, will assume you were dead. Like you out there now, you're probably gonna die. It's safe here, so making it effective in this part, I think, makes the most sense. But I love the performances in here. What was up with that dude? What do you think about that dude? That no H, that sexy freaking undead that just went up to was like, oh yeah. Fuck killing this one. I want to make some love. I want to kiss the mess out of Tess right here.
I don't know. That was a little bit weird because like everyone's running, like literally stampeding over everybody, and then boom, you got this like sexual chocolate. You know, he's coming in like all smooth. He's like, I want to get me some.
You just hear them like music in your head, like the
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
she's
I
just trying to
don't
light up
feel
the
about-
lighter. I was like,
yeah. Yeah, that was weird. It overall worked, but it wasn't the best moment for me. It was kind of weird of just like, I just want to connect with you in a different way than I want to connect with everybody else that I've been chasing.
There's
But
one scene she tells Joel, like, you know, you save her, but also save who you can save.
Great line.
Basically. Yeah, I was like, dang, I'm telling you, women, like, or girls, females, whatever you want to call them, like, beasts, man. They're even to the death, they're beasts. Like, later you find out, like, yeah, they're beasts. They're like, I love how they portray them in this. Like, no freaking mercy with these girls.
Yeah, like that. And that's the thing. And they softened Joel up, but it wasn't like Joel is super weak and needs all of the female characters. They were just strong and they were all balanced and helping each other out, which I enjoy. Ellie is a beat. Ellie learns a lot from Joel and through the course of their relationship, to the point where that relationship flips, and we'll talk about later, where she's becoming more stoic and he's like, yo, Chef Boyardee, and she's like, their roles actually flipped, and you can see that transformation after what happened to her at that, I don't know if that cult area, but no, this was probably my second favorite episode. Yeah, this one and the first one are like, they can go either way. My favorite episode's coming up a few episodes later, but what up, Super Miguel? But this one right here is a lot of stuff taken, like they did exactly what they did in the first game. They added context, changed some things. What they changed made sense, and it didn't replace a lot of the good stuff that people expect, like if you played the game. And it also made for good TV for people who didn't play the game. And
good thing to mention really quick is like there's the video game, which everyone compares it to because it's based from the video game. But like you're playing a video game, there's action, so you gotta take, there's like separate quests. This is a show, man, so it has to be a little bit different because of time constraint and like how many episodes are allocated. So I feel like the adaptation always is gonna pan out that way with different scenes. Like they're gonna mix it up. So I don't mind it too much, but
I don't mind it neither. When I do mind it, I'll let you know. But as of right, these two episodes, I didn't mind any of the changes. And like, because to your point, you don't have to create gameplay to lengthen things out. And when you don't have that gameplay, the story is going to flow by way faster. But by adding more context in those gaps, I think that's when the formula was working 100%. Like with episode 1 and 2, I think they nailed that formula. And then when we get to 3, we could talk about how I think it could still be good and you can still appreciate the episode, but it comes at the expense of some stuff that I'd much rather see. And it only really happened with episode 3 and episode 4. Those two episodes were the ones where I think that bothered me the most. But yeah,
so episode 2, IMDb gives it a 9.1. I give it a 9.5. Like you said, almost as good as episode 1. It just hooks you in even more.
Yeah.
But what about your score for episode 2?
Black Joel gives it 9.5, baby. 9.5. Love this one too. 9.5. Yeah, these are what. After watching this episode and the first one, I'm like, this is probably the best game adaptation I've ever seen. This is when I was at the most hype for the season, was after these 2 episodes. So these ones are going to be ranked super high for me because I was just like, yo, they doing it. It's different. It's additive to the game. They put in differences to make gamers actually want to watch this as well as a compliment to the game versus which one's better. They're both great. This is a compliment. I could watch both when I feel like just watching it. I could play the game when I play the game. This is when I think it was peak perfect, damn near perfect, these 2 episodes for me.
And episode 3 is called Long, Long Time, with a synopsis of When an unknown person approaches his compound, survivalist Bill forges an unlikely connection. Later, Joel and Ellie seek Bill's guidance. So,
Yeah.
this is Bill.
What up? Bill's a G, dude.
Yeah,
I love
look at
Bill.
that hair.
Bill is awesome. He's even more awesome in the game. Bill is a freaking survivalist, trap master. All the guys, he's one of those guys where it's like he was ready for the zombie apocalypse. He was waiting for this day to happen. Like, he was like, I told y'all motherfuckers, I'm gonna take over the whole town and all of that good stuff. And my whole thing is, so Bill was gay. You find that out at the end of the episode, and it's part of his character, and it's all that of good. But here, Frank and Bill's relationship was totally different.
Wow.
Way different. So, like, key points. Well, we can set up Bill. Bill, like I said, survivalist. I like how they showed the beginning of what the QZs was doing when they were when Frederick was going into town and like killing babies and stuff if they were infected or like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. Well, they were emptying out the town, trying to take it to QZ, so like town was completely emptied out. While Bill was like, "I'm not going with you guys. Like, I know exactly what you're gonna do, to you guys.
I'm going to Home Depot, baby. I'm gonna get
so
set up.
He's like literally what a crazy, what we would call crazy people. He just stayed inside his bunker, waited it out, and then to Home Depot like 2 weeks later.
And what was cool about the game is he was all of that. And you don't really find out because you get to know him as a person, and then you either think he's cool or not, and like, yeah, you vibe, and you find out towards the end that he's gay, and it is what it is. It's fine. Here they spent a lot of time where I never got emotionally attached to any of these characters because I was expecting Frank to change at any point. Because in the game, Frank hated this dude. He hated him because, like when Bill was like, hey, we can go open up a shop, we can have friends. In the game, Bill didn't want to do any of that stuff and was like, no, we're just going to stay together. And that was it. So Frank at the end, I want to read you Frank's letter because this is all you get from Frank. So this is what you find. You go through all of this stuff with Bill and Frank, and this is the letter you get at the end. You get, hey, Bill, I doubt you ever found this note because you were too scared to ever make it to this part of town. But if for some reason you did, I want you to know that I hated your fucking guts. Yeah. I grew tired of this shitty town and your set in your ways attitude. I wanted more from life than this, and you could never get that. And that stupid battery you keep moaning about, I got it. But I guess you were right. Trying to leave town will kill me. Still better than spending another day with you. Good luck, Frank. Because he tried to take the battery and jet and leave him and got bit. So with his last moments, he hated this Bill so much that he took time to write that letter. And you find that letter and you just hand it to Joel. You just hand it to Joel hands it to Bill. And Bill's like, feels a certain by the way, but I was expecting. I could never put any trust into Frank because I'm like, I know you're gonna betray him at some point, and it never happened. So the time, and then they age him up. They never get. So Bill survives, right, and teaches him how to siphon gas and mentions how to siphon gas, all of this good stuff. But what they told him was a great story. I just couldn't get invested in it because I'm like waiting for the game stuff to happen. We replaced this with going through Trap City. Like Joel never met Bill before. So he never met him before. This was the first time they were going to meet him. Never met Frank. He just heard about him. So he gets to the town and he get caught in a trap, one of his traps. You're upside down and you're trying to defend Ellie. One of my favorite moments in the game. And then Bill comes out and start killing the zombies that were after them, were attracted by the traps. And then the best part is when they go into the school and you're introduced to for the bloater for the first time. another dope action set piece that we didn't get. And the most important thing we lose is Bill's relationship and the impact he has with Ellie. You know what I mean? So like Ellie is the read, she's the star, and none of this, the only thing that mattered is the letter at the end. But they had a lot of dialogue. They didn't trust each other. He finds out she was bit. He cuffs her up. And then they slowly create a bond that I would have much rather see than what they showed here, because it was like a cool story about somebody can protect each other and live out their good life in the apocalypse. But I just find the other stuff that they could have told more. And I want to see Joe and Ellie interactions, banter with Bill. Absolutely. I think that sacrifice, I don't think was worth it. They told a good story, a beautiful story, but it doesn't have the impact of Ellie meeting Bill and growing and building that trust and him surviving, because it's important that Bill would have survived, because yeah, I played the game, played the back. Yeah, man, it's crazy because when you get that moment and you build it up, when Bill survives, that was the first win you get in a very long time, because it's, y'all seen it, spoiler alert, everybody you meet ends up dying. So if everybody ends up dying along the way without nobody surviving, it's just sort of like you just get used to that. There's no hope. Everybody you meet, you just turned off again. So when you meet Bill and he survives, there's a chance Henry and Sam might survive, right? But when he dies, he's like, I'm not getting attached to any of these characters because I know they're just gonna die. I know they're just gonna die. I know they're just gonna die. So I think this was a pivotal moment where I think the game did it a lot better. It has nothing to do with him being gay and Frank's relationship, because it was like that in the game too. It was just a fucked up relationship. I just wanted to see more of Ellie interaction and banter and relationship, and as it affects her going forward. But still a good episode. But this is the first one that replaced it.
I definitely appreciate that though, from the video game standpoint. Like I said earlier, like I've never played the video game, but watching this episode, I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was, you get to see a difference. The whole episode is basically on two different characters you haven't watched for the past two episodes. So this episode's on Bill, and his name is Frank, the other guy.
Yep, Bill and Frank. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you get to see them, and it's funny because like he like stops him. He's like, "Hey man, like I want to give you a chance. You could get the hell out of here now, but I could kill you right now. But like I'm not. I'm choosing not to. I'm gonna let you go." But then Frank goes like, "I'm hungry." He goes like, if Bill goes like, "If I start feeding you, you're gonna start bringing in more people saying like, hey, this guy's a softie." And I was like, man, like watch this go somewhere crazy. And then like come to find out, freaking Bill I don't think Bill even knew he was gay. Bill never experimented.
No, Frank said, I'm gonna show you what you are.
He's like, it's funny because like, I think I got it right here. No, he's like playing the piano and he's like, no, so was that for a girl? And Bill goes like, no. And then Frank goes like, I know. Go take a shower.
I seen it. I see right through you. Like building that relationship. Like you said, the Pit, Nick Offerman, crazy good actor. He did awesome in the role. And I forget this other dude name. Let me see if I have it. What was this, episode 3? Yeah, it's Murray Bartlett played Frank. Excellent acting. Like they were killing the acting, is no question. It was like some of the best acting we got out of the whole seasons. But like, spending time with the Strawberries, good moment. But I'd much rather have the bloaters and him saving Ellie and him teaching them. He's so tactical in survival that he instills that into Ellie and Joel going forward even more. So like, it's more believable when Ellie meets the cannibals that she could survive that situation. Like you learn a lot from a survivalist in your little journey. And then I think it's important that everybody you meet affects the character going forward. If not, what's the point? So when you have something that's so stand alone. It's not that it doesn't. It still gave some motivation. I just don't think it added up to what the game gave. So like in this, we're supposed to think that, okay, look, I found my purpose. It was like, Ellie, look, Bill found his purpose with Frank. His purpose was to survive and provide and keep Frank safe.
Yep.
So it's okay to be able to, if you wanted to, carve out a place in this apocalypse and live your life to your old age. And it's a good thing to know that in the apocalypse that could happen. I just wouldn't trade that story for Ellie, because that impacts, because they didn't do that. So they didn't learn anything from that, because that's not what they do. What they learned from Bill is, if a motherfucker comes after you, I'm going to use this axe. I'm going to take from the side of your head. I knew how to kill clickers a little more because I fought some alongside Joel and Bill. I'm going to learn a little bit about traps and subterfuge and setup and all of this stuff I learned through the course with Bill, which I think adds to Ellie's character to make her makes more sense to be able to do the things she does later on in the season. But yeah.
So that's interesting because like these, I don't want to say these characters were throwaway characters, because like it does add to the overall story. I mean, they weren't as interactive as the video game version, but it's definitely fun to see. Like, there's like a little, like you were mentioning, like a little like safe zone in this whole apocalypse. Even though like I don't think they were ever meant to like run to each other. Like, you know, like he's basically got trapped, and this guy's like a crazy guy where he's like, you know, I don't trust anybody. Rightfully so, you know. But then like Joel gets involved, and Joel goes like, hey man, like, your fence is going to deteriorate within 2 years. I got aluminum for you if you want to start trading. And then freaking Bill is like, I don't know, man. Like I don't trust you, but my partner does. My partner trusts Tess, you know. So it goes from there, and then like they grow old together, which was like crazy to see. Like you never see this in like zombie shows, movies. Like you see them progress, but that story goes on. But you see them here, old, fragile, still together.
They pretty much won, right? They got to live a long life until you got an illness, like, and that you can't, like, you're not gonna beat that. And then it was beautiful. He decided, you were my purpose. I'm going with you. Like the sentimental value and the sentiment that it tried to say was on point. Like the episode in itself is a great episode. Like I think it is. Like you were saying, like even the makeup, I love the part when the Raiders raided, and like he was like, yo, this fence stuff, and then you see like I like the mutual respect that Joel and Bill had for each other, because when they were at the table and they were eating, they were sizing each other up. Yep, yeah, the guy's like sort of that way. And then he picks up that, you know, protect you, and then he was like, protect the one you love, or Frank, I forget the exact line, and it was just sort of like I could listen to him, and then you could tell they worked. You could assume that he did smuggle and get some stuff they need and created that relationship. All well done, absolutely. But yeah, look at that. That was when it was like, yo, you took some of this too, didn't you? Yeah. And they were eating like kings, dude. They were like, they were like that rabbit. They were eating like whatever they were eating. They was eating like
wine. But man, rightfully so, man. Like everyone considered, I'm sure, forever he was crazy, but set up that bunker. But here we are, apocalypse, and he's like, you dumb motherfucker.
No, they won. They lived out their whole life. They got to have great moments. They had that whole town to themselves. And that, I think that was the point, that even when shit is bleak, and also I think they wanted to portray a relationship like I'm trying to figure out what is the politically correct version of I think it's just whatever. It's just a relationship, a gay relationship, and not make it like Frank, right? Where the Frank in the game was like, they probably didn't want to portray one of the first. They probably wanted to flesh it out more, because like in the game, I'm pretty sure that if I think I read something where they consulted with like a lot of people that are in relationships like this, and they probably was like, yo, we're not gonna turn, we're not that like that. But I'm like, people are people, everybody's everybody. Wherever you identify with, you're gonna have somebody that's good, that's bad, that will do something like that won't do like that. But I think that they went out their way to portray a positive relationship, which I think is important and it's good. But anytime something affects something I love, regardless of it, it's got to be better than the image. Like, you could do it, and a lot of the things they did earlier was better than the game or additive to the game. And I don't think I would trade this relationship for what I got. But that's speaking from a freaking straight man. Like, a gay part was like, no, this is probably the most important, and that's probably why they love it, right?
Yeah,
so like, if you do, it didn't ruin it for me at all. And if it made other people happy, awesome. Because it didn't ruin it. I just would have preferred to see Joe strung up upside down, blow to action, go to the school, Ellie teaching all of that. But that's But yeah.
I think we keep saying this though. Like, the video game has so much, it's you get to walk around in that world. While this show is time constraints, like episodes,
but being time constraint, you can't do a whole episode. Because it ends up feeling like like when you don't have that much time, it could end up feeling like a filler episode. Which this one was borderline. I don't think it was filler. I do think it was additive in a different way. But you could easily see where it could be considered a filler episode, especially when you sacrificing the main character, Joel and Ellie, time. And I think that's why ultimately the ending happens and it didn't hit me as hard as the game, because you live with them so much for so long. And when you take that perspective out, that point of view out, forever how many long, you losing building that. Why would somebody make that decision move, right? You got to be totally in and invested to sacrifice the whole world's possible cure to kill all the doctors and stuff. And to do that, that relationship needs to be super developed. So when you take time away from that, and it's not just with these characters, there's other characters they did it with, where I think that time would have been spent better with setting that up so that when that moment happens, it hits hard. Because you know what I'm talking about. That thing is going to, you're like, what the fuck did Joel done do?
So these guys, they take the pill, they pass away together. And it's funny because Bill writes a note to Joel saying, like, to whoever finds this, most likely Joel. He's even funny in
that was a great letter,
Yeah, but he leaves him his truck full of gas with battery, and then you find out tidbits though. Like Joel has spoken to Bill, and Bill like says like gas becomes dehydrated. I think is the word he used, but it becomes where like water
evaporates.
Evaporates. Yeah. So you gotta like fill this truck up more times than often. Where you could. We used to be able to drive for like 4 days. You probably have an hour, 2 hours to drive. But he takes the truck and he drives, and then they run into like this whole thing where they can't get past this one part, and then that's where the episode ends.
Good episode. And I was just to tap on that. Like, and that part in the game is where Bill drops him off and he gives him the funnel for the cars and shows him how to do it, and then some like good luck. And then that was a success that, oh man, we got a survivor and he was cool. But yeah.
On this episode, they play this song that I have on my Spotify list and I always play. It's called On the Nature of Daylight. It's by Max Richter. And it's just like this whole violin song, just like sad, but it's also uplifting because like when you play it over this scene where they're, talking it over, blah, 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 it's just like, dang, it's about to go down. And they're happy. It's like, to me, it was like, man, like it adds another level to the relationship and the characters themselves. But yeah, man, IMDb gives this episode the lowest of them all so far, 8.0 out of 10. And I don't know, man. I give this episode probably like compared to the other ones as well, probably like an 8.5, like, around there.
Yeah, I could do like that's the thing. Well directed, well acted. I think it was just more of it was just a different take on it. I would probably do I got to think about the other episodes to make sure that it's tiered right. It would probably be a 7.5 or 8 for me too. It's definitely, I could go either way on that. The acting was great. I love these two in the role. I like the Joel and them interaction. What was there, like I said, it's probably an 8 because I didn't dislike it. My expectations got the better. This was the first time my expectations got the better of me because I was just expecting so many things to happen and like none of them did. So that was the thing. So like when you just expecting stuff and be like, okay, when is Frank gonna snap? I don't want to put any emotional attachment to Frank. So I'm not crying for him, not sad for him. I'm waiting for him to betray Bill, and Bill's my boy. So I'm like, so when you're watching it through that lens, it was hard for me, and I haven't gone back to watch it a second time to just appreciate it for what it is. So I'll just give it I'll do it a 7.5. I'll leave it there only because, like I didn't get a lot of what I was expecting from the game, and I don't think what they chose to do made up for that. So I'll leave it at that. But it's a good episode.
That's not a bad score either, man. Like that's
no. It's not like a 5 where it's mid. 7.5 is still well into the positive, and it's not like it's a 50 or a 4 where it's below average. It's a really good episode.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna go to the 4th episode. The 4th episode is called "Please Hold to My Hand." It came out February 5th, 2023. The synopsis is: after abandoning their truck in Kansas City, Joel and Ellie attempt to escape without drawing the attention of a vindicative rebel leader. And this is where it starts getting dark. Like, it's already dark to begin with, but it starts like you start seeing the little quarantine zones that get overtaken by, the rebels, I guess you would call them. But, but the beginning of the episode is pretty funny. Like, Ellie finds this like men's porno magazine that Bill had hidden on. And Ellie's like, why are these pages stuck? And then like Joel is like, what are you talking about? Yeah, this is go ahead.
No, this was straight out of the game, and I loved it. It was word for word out the game. So when they did that, I'm like, yay, we're off to a great start. Let's go. Put some more game stuff in. But this interaction was dope. You could tell that, this is like one of the first times that like Joe has to carry the show now. You had Tess for the most part, and before that, you had Sarah and Tommy and all of this stuff. But as far as building Ellie's relationship with Joel, this is where it starts. Like, this is the episode where it starts, because with Bill, you don't get to see a lot of them. So you like, okay, now that Tess died, we didn't get to live with that like moment. So this is the first time we get to see guys.
I think that's what he said. Bye bye, dude. Like she throws away the magazine.
Bye bye, dude. Yeah, bye bye, dude. Yep, that's the exact line. But so this is where you can start seeing they play with music. She's trying to crack jokes. She's trying to break through. She's going to ask him a bunch of questions, and he's still like stone heart and all of this good stuff. But here's when you start to get to see them trying to build a relationship. And this was a great kickoff to that.
I put a notes on my for my notes. I'm gonna say daughter and dad moment. So like they're starting to become like closer, like you were saying. But she mentions like this book of jokes or puns that she had this joke. Books. Do you know how did you know diarrhea runs? It's hereditary. It runs in your genes. One of those. One of those books. And I was that's definitely Ellie. Ellie is so like, she's so what's the word? She's so like already matured so much, but she's keeping that little sense of she's still a child. She's trying to keep it, but at the same time, she's growing up in this environment where like people are going crazy.
Dude, like she's like, dude, how do you walk with that thing? And putting in tapes and the pun book. And I was saving, I seen your comment, Critical Mass, but I was saving this episode to go into it. Yeah, the puns is a big part of the game where, you can be walking and there'll be an interaction prompt to pull out the pun book, and they pulled these puns. Every single one of them were exactly from the game, and there was even an achievement tied to it. Like if you heard all of the puns, you needed it to get the platinum trophy. So like I heard all of them. So every time they said one, I was just cracking up because it's such a part of Ellie, and where she gets the book from is important, and it's the same way she gets it in the game. But yeah, no, the book has been a part of it. So I'm glad they was able to bring that over. A lot of the stuff they brought over from the game is great. And here we go. Some of the stuff that wasn't in the game that they brought off, didn't like. I don't like this character at all.
Rebel leader? Dang, okay.
Oh, and you could talk and I could go on why, because this is probably my worst episode out of all of them. And it sucks because it leads into my favorite episode out of all of them. So it's like, and when we were talking about having a part 1 and a part 2 and doing them back to back, I think that would have helped this because she gets better in the second one. But why I hate this character is because you never know why they follow her. They tell you why, and they mentioned the brother and all of this stuff was a great leader. But that's not action. They just telling you. Her actions is, hey, there's a doctor. We don't have any doctors really. They're rare. I'm going to kill this Captain Karen. Exactly.
That's literally what I should have called her.
Captain Karen, who I'm going to call her now for the rest, is like, she's like, where's Henry? Where's Sam?
Literally.
You're a doctor and you're so rare and we probably can use you. I'm going to kill you. That's not a leadership decision right there to me. I don't know why you would follow that. Then there's like a big noise and coming out a door, mad effective. They know it. And then Perry, who's played by the voice actor that voiced Tommy in the game, plays Perry, like the mercenary here. Yeah. He's like, well, what should we do about it? And then she's like, we'll tell them later. They're not worried about it. We got other things to do. That's not a very leadership thing to do. Like her character in the game, it wasn't Kansas City. It was Pittsburgh. They went to Pittsburgh. And it was crazy because it's like, it wasn't just a swap out for Frederick to these rebels. It was, even though it was more of like the city took over. There was no real leadership. It was chaos throughout. And they tried to put a face to it and create a relationship and tie it to Henry. All of that's good, but then that sacrifices more time that they could have had with Henry. And not saying you have to always do that. I just don't like what they decided to do here. I don't think it made any sense for this character to follow her. And it could have been like another female that made better decisions than she made. And you understand why you really need to find, I want to kill Henry no matter what, because I killed my brother. And I'm so, all her choices was stupid to me personally. I didn't think that she showed any leadership. If anything, she showed a lack of leadership. She made the stupidest decisions all the way up to the very end where she freaking dies by Megan. Megan makes an appearance and she's like, yeah. But then they made up for it towards the next episode. There does a lot that they did right, but without knowing where this was going. And I was so scared that they were going to do more of this in the second one. The second part of this 2-part arc. Mm-hmm. They did, and they came around and made it more like game. But if this episode was a standalone with the resolution we got, this is the one that I can skip because they mean nothing to the story, like at all. They try to tie it to Henry and Sam, but you don't need her for that because Henry and Sam, they had a lot more interactions that you get to know them. And they changed some stuff with Henry and Sam, a lot of stuff, but it was really good, the changes that they made. Whereas adding her and just swapping, I didn't care for this episode. This is where the series thought it was going to go down for me, but it picks back up. But yeah, didn't like this episode.
Yeah, I didn't like it as much either. Like I was like, man, so she is the sister of the leader, and they transfer all his powers to her just because, But they were mentioning also, like some of the guys were like, he trusted you, so we trust we trust you, and
Yeah.
that's a lot to put on somebody, and a lot from like the village or the town. It's like hell no, like I don't know who she is, like I don't know what she's gonna like, what she's gonna do at the end. So like her killing the doctor, her just going blindly looking for like these two people, and like literally her like top lieutenants are telling her like it's not our first priority, it's probably our seventh priority, because we gotta protect the overall town, and you want all those people to like go look for these, like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, her
She goes like,
priorities were
"Oh."
freaking all off.
Yeah, she was like, oh, okay, so like it's not your priority, like, you know, it's my priority, it's not your priority, like
You better
okay, I
make
guess
your
we'll make it our
priorities my
priority.
priorities.
Yeah. I was like, that's
Yeah.
bullshit, man. Like,
And they try to say some throwaway line, like they try to build up with throwaway lines and exposition instead of her actions. All her actions was whack, and it was like, oh man, your brother couldn't got it. He didn't. He wasn't able to take over Fedra. You did. How? Like just by saying that, like all I'm seeing is some incompetent, driven by emotion and her feelings, contradicting herself. Because when you get to the second part of this season, she was like, you're going to go through all of this stuff to save your brother. How selfish of you. Kids die all of the time. And she's doing the same shit, doing everything and risking everybody to kill one dude. It just makes no freaking sense. Yeah. But those are my boys right there, Henry and Sam.
I love these guys because like I'm always like, I watch all these shows with subtitles, but when they start like doing sign language, I was like, oh snap, like this kid is like deaf, whatever. But like that's the thing with this show too, or this video game, is like kids born into this world, they don't know any better. Like they don't know like what everyone else knows, like that has heard more stories or has had parents that have lived the normal lives that we have lived. These kids just know apocalypse. That's what they do.
And that's the thing. And I think they set that up beautifully in the beginning with Tessa's character of like, when he's like, oh, I got jumped. Some kids, you know, they were all born after the apocalypse. They don't know no better. They don't know shit. You know what I mean? It was just sort of like, and they're right. They don't. And they explore that a lot in part 2, which is dope, but we're not even going to touch that.
Yeah. And the episode ends with like Ellie and Pablo getting to the, I think, 32nd floor, and they're resting.
Yeah.
And then this kid comes out of nowhere with a gun. He goes like, shh. I was like, dang, at least the episode ended nicely. Like,
it did.
These guys.
It did. Yeah. It ended and it went into one of my favorite episodes. So
exactly.
it was cool.
But
now, this episode gets a 4.5. This shit gets a 4.5 for me. I hated this episode. It almost made me like, dude.
IMDb gave the previous episode an 8.0. They gave this episode an 8.4, man. I like the other episode compared to this one, but this one gets an 8.4. I give it like 6.5, 7. The only thing that saves it is these two characters, man. Yeah, like
yeah. Jesse's asking, who the fuck is Pablo? No, and yeah, you're right. Jesse, Captain Karen's right here, man. Perry played Joel's brother Tommy in the game. Let's get his name on there so we can show him some love. Jeffrey Pierce. Yeah, he played Perry and also was the voice actor of Tommy in the game. Which was cool.
Some tidbits right there. But yeah, man, this is like not a throwaway episode. It's just like you get to find out these two characters, and like we were saying, like Ellie and Pablo are starting to interact a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad.
No, and that's the thing. Even though I'm giving it a lot of junk, but if I had to rate this one and the next one combined, it brings it up into the positive easy. Because I think if you watch these two back to back, it makes, and that's what they did with the first 2 episodes. It was like one arc before they moved on to the Joel arc. I mean, the Bill and Frank arc. And this, the Henry and Sam and the Rebels and Pittsburgh, all of that is one arc, and they teach them a very important lesson at the end of it. So if you take both of those and watch it, it's like still one of my favorite episodes. Yeah. But if I had to just judge this based off of that episode alone, it wouldn't live up to it for me.
Well, the next episode 5, is called Endure and Survive. Came out February 10th. I'm just mentioning the dates because they're like a little bit different sometimes. But the synopsis is while attempting to evade the rebels, Joe and Ellie cross paths with the most wanted man in Kansas City. Kathleen continues her hunt.
Captain Karen continues. The saga continues. Oh man, go ahead.
Yeah, so we start off the episode with finding out like they are running out of food, and they are like, well, it's this is what the series does too. They tell you a little bit of the story and then they backtrack.
Yeah,
They start
give
off
a
the
little
episode, they
flashback.
backtrack, and then they put you back in the present time, whatever. But come to find out, these guys are the brother is wanted. The older brother is wanted because he set up the death of the leader of the whole thing. But come to find out, they're running out of food. The doctor hasn't showed up more than 8 days to bring them back food or give them news. So now they're trying to move like before like they've run out of food completely.
Yeah. Now, here is where the changes from the game make a lot of sense and actually make you care for the characters a little more. So, little Sam over there, he's not deaf in the game. He's got all his hearing and all of that good stuff. See you guys. But no, he's let me see. Oh yeah, no. Like so for him, he's not deaf in the game. Sam is a little different. They don't have this whole rebel sort of Captain Karen chasing and looking for him and all of this stuff. It was more of like they stumbled upon each other and they realized, oh, they can work together to get out of Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh was like, they had trucks that says die or some shit on there. And I remember that truck chasing you throughout the town, and it shows up a little at the end, but their whole goal was just to get past the CQ and just get out of there, because it was locked down there was no federal presence there. But here it makes a lot of sense, because now the stuff that they introduced in that episode 4 pays dividends, because now the doctor is connected. He needed medicine. The reason why Henry betrayed was because to save Sam, and it's almost a thing. They always hint at it with this series is that through line of love, and like all of that sense goes out of the window when it's somebody that you love versus if it's random people. Everybody could say,
Literally,
hey man, I will sacrifice the few for the many until it's their kid or it's their mom is to them. And this is just another example of that. Look what Henry is willing to do. He's not the type of dude that will steal stuff or rat, but for Henry, he turns into a thief and a rat. You know what I mean? Because that's his brother. But he did it for all of the right reasons, and I like what they did there. And the added him being deaf added to him really needed to protect him more and rely on him more. So that's a change that works for me as well. All of this underground stuff was from the game, like all of the board of rules was from the game. Except there was a lot more zombies. I'm sorry, infected. A lot more infected you have to deal with. Yeah, and I just love how they built out this relationship. And this is what I mean when these are the moments you potentially lose when you change stuff and it ain't for the better and it's just a change. Because like Ellie and Sam's relationship gets built on here. They spend some time with it, and you see them grow throughout the episode, whether it's them playing soccer, the goal, them reading the comic book. The Endure and Survive is actually from the comic book they read. And it just ties them together, just like us. Common goals is comics and statues, and you meet that person, you could talk about it forever. You instantly identify with what they're talking about, and they start to build that out. And the whole thing there is like, the doctor says he's scared because you're scared or something to that effect, and he's just sort of like, we got to do something. And then freaking Karen ends up killing that doctor, and he's like, he's not coming back. All he could do is hold him. And that hug felt so like not acting. It was like, yo, brother, like my brother, I'm going to protect you. Let's go. And I think this was set up beautifully. I actually really like that.
So yeah, what's his name, Joel and the older brother speak for like a good minute, but Joel basically says it's not fair that these kids are born. They're born
Yeah.
into this crazy apocalypse. He keeps mentioning it a lot, but like
Yeah.
they should be kids enjoying life like we did. When we were kids, when we were like living before this, and now they
Yeah.
have to like endure. They have to like them just having like this little date together, just writing, playing with the soccer ball is like probably a minute of like 24 hours that they have, like they're having fun,
Yeah.
but it should be an all day thing like it is for kids today.
I
But
know.
then
Oh,
yeah,
little Megan.
so I skipped a lot. But, like they go through the tunnels, they come to find out on the other side of the tunnel they think they're free, but come to find out Captain Karen is like on their trail.
Yeah.
And like they set up a sniper on top of one of the barns out there, and then Joel tries to take out the sniper, but then of course Captain Karen has her whole crew behind him, and
The
then
Captain Karen squad.
it's crazy. This is where I finally get to go like, oh wow, the infected are coming out. This is what everyone wants to see, and they don't disappoint. They got the little baby Karen, and they got this big boy come out.
The
And
bloater
I'm
debut.
just coming
Yeah.
out like not playing the game, not playing anything. It's like finally episode 5, we're getting like some crazy things going on, and we get
Yeah.
a swarm of them. It's like wow, like I wish for a good minute I was like, I wish this was every episode. A
Yeah.
swarm of them, crazy amounts of them, Joel and Ellie going crazy with them. But I'm kind of happy like they spread it out. Like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people do want to see them everywhere, but they
Yeah.
definitely spread them out.
I don't necessarily want to see him everywhere. I want to see him where like it sort of makes sense. And it like because it is a delicate balance, right? It's a delicate balance of like you don't want it to show up so much that you become immune to it that it's just like they don't have the same effect. But also since it is based on the apocalypse, like that threat always needs to be there in some way. And I think after this episode, the threat of the infected is gone. You don't really get to see them at all. Like you get a flashback episode with one, then a lot of that is like the threat and what she's trying to cure becomes so pushed to the background that it's almost like they're just in barren wastelands versus like traversing. What was cool about the game is like for me to get to here and here, we know there's affected there. How are we going to get through there? Figure out a plan to get through there and go. And this was the best balance of that out of all of the episodes because it was like, we got to leave the QZ. Oh, it looks like we got daylight. They bust up through the ground and attack everywhere. And like, this is why we need to, this is why it's scary to traverse all the way to where we got to traverse to because of this stuff. Like the bloater, he was really introduced back in Bill and Frank's episode. So without that introduction of them, it's like you go a whole episode without the threat, but you never really set him up. And so when you see him here, you're happy because you're like, yay! Yeah. And when they do, they give him an execution that's straight out the game, like that grabbing him. Like if
really?
get caught, if you get caught by that bloater, it's the exact same death animation.
Hell
So like the
yeah.
fact that they did that was awesome. And then you also get into where you get a little late, the sniper, where Joe has to get to the sniper. And get to him and take over and defend Ellie. I didn't think they was going to give me that moment because they didn't give me the upside down Joel in the last
Yeah.
episode either. So this one where it was like, so you go from Bill, no zombies, then you go to episode 4, no zombies, and you go through this and there's almost no zombies and no game stuff, and then you get it and you're like, yes! And then the ultimate payoff is at the end and we'll get to it, but like, I think this was the most balanced episode of having infected, having good narrative, and having one of the best surprising, gut-wrenching endings out of all of the episodes. I think it's perfect. Look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy. They somehow escape. Like freaking Joel protects them, like as he should. But
Yep,
then come to find out, like Ellie and the kid are just like, having fun, just chatting with each other. And the kid goes like, I don't want to be alone, And he goes
Yeah.
like, hey, like, could you stay up with me the whole night? Like it gets like a little bit, yeah. You're like, oh,
Oh,
what's going on? They can't do this to the
oh,
kid. Like
oh.
that's not cool. Yeah,
And you had no idea what was coming, right?
yeah,
So
man. As
go
soon as he
ahead.
pulls up his pants, or she pulls up his pants, like it goes, yeah,
Hmm.
like he's infected. And then Ellie's just like, I love this part. It gets me sometimes. Like she goes like, they keep telling me I'm the cure. I'm the cure. Like she
Yes.
yeah,
Let
gouges
me
her
see if I'm a
hand
Supergirl. Yeah.
and puts her hand because she thinks her blood's the cure, right? Directly
Yeah.
put it on. She puts it on him and goes like, I'm the cure. I'm the cure. I'm gonna save you.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to where like I put it on my notes, like it's not easier for kids. Like even like
Mm-mm.
this shouldn't be like something for kids to like take upon themselves. But
Mm.
Ellie's gone through so much to where she's matured and all this other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but still, but she still does it. She puts it on his leg and goes like, you're cured. Like I'm not going to fall asleep until you fall asleep. And then wakes up to go like him being turned into an infected. It's sad. And it's also like, man, like,
It was so disturbingly good and well executed, and line for line from the game. And what they
oh,
add wasn't from the game. Was great. It fleshed out Ellie a little more because she didn't do that with the blood in the game. But the words, everything before and after that, the blood thing was like damn near word for word, and it was crazy because it hits you like, what are you scared of? That whole line of dialogue of like being alone, right? And before that, I think she said, was it spiders or something? She said
yeah. Yep.
something stupid, and it was a joke. And then they got serious and emotional. And when she find out, like I remember my wife watching the game cutscene of that and was like, no, 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 no. And then you get to him turning and like bust out the door, and you see just freaking Henry and Joel there. And you could take it from here because this scene was my favorite. Oh, scorpions! Yeah, I'm afraid of scorpions. That was it. Just
Oh, okay. But yeah,
um,
it busts down the door, and then automatically, like Henry goes, like, or Joel goes, like, what's Ellie? Like he screams out for her, like,
mhm.
it's like small things like that, which I really
Yeah,
like. It's like he really cares about her at this point.
yeah,
But then, like, Henry's just like he automatically, he pulls out the gun and just shoots him. Like not like
yeah.
he's nothing, but it's like instinct by now.
Uh-huh.
He's never killed anybody, but he has the gun, and he's also going like,
Yeah.
an infected is here, and just, I mean, they've been in it for like 20, 30 years by now, so
Yeah.
it's just, get rid of it, as soon as possible.
No.
And then he goes, oh crap, that was my brother. And again, it's my purpose. My purpose is
Yeah.
now gone.
You nailed it. Like that was
Yeah.
it. His purpose is gone. I will say, I think the show did an excellent job with this scene, and it's awesome. I prefer the game only because like Henry in here, it's a little bitch. Like throughout the whole thing, like he wasn't no punk, and he had to survive in Pittsburgh. He was doing whatever he needed to do to protect his brother, and all of that good stuff. All of that stuff was there. But like this dude, I don't know how he survived 2 days on the
Yeah,
street protecting his
I'm
brother.
the same
Dude.
thought.
Like,
Yeah,
dude.
like
But what was cool is that it made him depend more on Joel getting him out the city, where in the game was like, let's partner up because we both badasses trying to protect somebody. This was like, no, you need Joel and he's smart, and they played to the intellect. And I like the change. It was just different. I just don't know how this dude would have survived without Joel, which makes
Yeah.
sense that he would lean on Joel to get him out of there when he's seen him. But also, I think it hits way harder in the game, this scene, and this one hits hard, but they pan away, and and this dude just seems like nervous, where I thought he was gonna shoot Joel and protect. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I thought he was gonna shoot Joel to protect him, and then something was gonna happen there. Because he was just sort of like, what did you do? And here it was like, what's happening? Then the game was like, what did you do? And then when he turned around and then he actually shoots Sam, like the camera is focused on Joel looking at and the gun right here, and when that camera shoots, you just see Joel's Henry. Oh no, when he shoots himself, like he turns the gun on himself after shooting Henry, the camera's with Joel and you just see Joel's face animated beautifully with blood on there, and then it just fades to black, and it was done just so well. Here you cut to Ellie, and then of course they're not going to show the suicide thing there. I just think it hit a little out of game, but I actually love what they did here as well. And what I do like what they did better in here was the burial, which wasn't in the game, because you just don't get no time to spend with that moment because it fades to black and you're in the next part of the story when it comes back up. So I love that they spent a little time. They buried them, and it was like, I'm sorry. She wrote, I'm sorry on his little sketch pad and put it on there. All well done, and just sort of like, it hardened up. You could see the effect it had on Ellie a lot more in the show than you could from the game. But yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes out of any game because it was the one that made me the most emotional while playing it, and I think while watching the show too, it still hits hard, dude. You just didn't expect, when you don't know what is Henry gonna do in this moment, that is your purpose, like you said so beautifully, and it's attacking an innocent person that you've grown, and you spend a lot more time with Ellie and their relationship. What Henry has developed more in the game too. That's why another reason I didn't like Kathleen, because we could have spent more time with that, because Henry also like she's like, yo, she's cool, and then she's the one inviting them to go with them to their destination in Wyoming, whatever. Mm-hmm. But this was probably the most beautifully executed scene in out of the whole series. My favorite. It's a 10 out of 10 episode for me. No spoiler. It was my favorite episode of the season. It was so well done. The things that worked better here than in the game, and vice versa. So like it was a wash there, but such a good moment.
To me, yeah, I feel like this is definitely, it's like 9.5. Nothing is perfect for me. Like maybe this is close to perfection. This is close to perfection. But like for me, this is where you see Ellie go like, oh crap, I'm outside the gates. I'm outside. Like, and this stuff happens out here too. With humans on humans, you know, it's crazy to think of, but like, I thought I'd be safer here, you know, but Ellie's just like, it's crazier out here than it is in the freaking QZ. Like, man, like, you guys should be happy, like, but still,
no.
So she has to experience that, and then like, you also get to see, man. So when they bury her or when they bury the bodies, I was like, why are they wasting time burying the bodies? Like, it's, you know, they've seen this enough times where like they could keep going on. Yeah, it shows you the respect they had for these two. You know,
absolutely.
Is developing to being her new best friend. Yeah, and then even Pedro goes like, "Hey, I know it's kind of like all of a sudden, but I want you guys to tag along with us. You know, like if you don't mind." And Henry goes like, "Hell yeah, like let's do it. Let's tag along." It.
It was her first friend outside of what's her name? Riley. Our first friend outside of Riley. Everybody else is just people like that had to watch over her or Fedra classmates, and since leaving, especially past the wall, this was the first one that she was like, oh man, this is my friend, and the relationship extended to Henry as well. Oh, and to clarify, I agree with you. Nothing's perfect at all. My 10s don't mean perfect. My 10s mean that, dude, anything that I wanted to hit, it hit, flaws and all. Everything worked for me versus like perfect, because nothing is perfect. But on this episode for me, I think like, what they, as far as setting out what they did do, adapting it to a new medium, honoring the game, I think they nailed all of that to a way where could have been done better in any way. There's some things, but I like overall that I think this is like It's so weird to say that
9.9.
10 don't mean perfect, but yeah, because 10 just means that it worked on every level for me, like personally, and I think it's a great episode.
Awesome, man. Yeah.
Love
So
it.
again, this episode got a 9.5 in IMDb.
There we
out of
go, IMDb.
71,000 people think it's a great episode too.
Yay.
Our next episode is going to be episode 6, and episode 6 is titled Kin. After ignoring the advice of locals, Joel and Ellie descend deeper into dangerous territory in search of the Fireflies and Tommy. So episode 6, and it starts off with...
Oh, there's my girl Florence.
I love this scene. She goes like, the gun is over there. That's why I could. Oh, why didn't you shoot them? And she goes like, the gun is all the way over there. That's why I didn't shoot them.
My girl Florence. She was like, "Oh, there's Firefly people."
Yeah, that was great
Oh
too, man.
man. Yeah.
She's like, she should get an Oscar, man. She's just sitting down on that thing and making me laugh with everything she's saying.
Yep,
I was
yep.
like, man.
Yeah, no, these guys are great. This is another couple that this is another like they changed it. The opening was very similar, but they weren't in it. It's just sort of like they were hunting rabbits and stuff like that, if I remember correctly. But
You're talking about from the video
these two
game
are pretty
standpoint,
nice.
right?
Yeah, on the video game point of view, this couple wasn't there, so this was an addition to it. But you know that he walks in with the rabbits, like the dude that comes in. If I remember correctly, and Jesse probably knows, I think it was Ellie or Joel hunting, and they come with the rabbits, and they just continue on to Wyoming, but they don't interact with this family here. But I think it was a fun scene, and I loved it. So it was like, yeah, let's go.
It's
This is
funny
really good.
because like, and they also mentioned like we got out of the city. We wanted something. We got out of the city before this all started happening, right? And then she goes like, "I didn't want to leave." And then like something they also mentioned is like, "Are you telling the truth or are you telling me the truth?" Like when like he's
Oh
talking
yeah,
about,
yeah,
like,
yeah. When he's like, like their little code and stuff. That was great. And correct me if I'm wrong. Did they do the map? The map, like point out on the map where they are, and if it's right or wrong, he'll know. I don't remember if they say that on this scene or not. I want to say they did.
Yeah.
And I was almost disappointed because I'm like, I thought it was going to replace the scene that they do later.
Like,
And then it was like, no, they still do it. So I was like, good. I was like, I hope that's not the scene because it was way more brutal. We must protect this couple. Yes.
Exactly.
They are everything.
I love the scene. You get to see Pedro and Ellie walk out with one rabbit, and then they come to find out they get led to and find his brother. Man, it's crazy to see this scene right here because you could see how Joel has aged like way more in advance than his brother. It's the stress, the anxiety he's been through, and like his brother is basically in paradise. You know, he's gonna have a kid soon, and he's just he's not as stressed out as his older brother. But it's a perfect scene right here where you see how much stress affects somebody.
Yeah. So this is interesting because from the gamer perspective, this town isn't fleshed out like this until part 2. So like they're giving you a sneak at they were still building this town when you get there. You have to go to the reservoir, the waterfall area, whatever. Remember doing a mission in there to help it so that, and it never gets complete here. So then when you go to part 2, you're like, oh, the thing I helped with is complete. But they showing like the full town operational and stuff here, which is cool because I think it sets up. I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a character that you see in the bar that may be important for part 2. So they set that up and plant those Easter eggs. They also, this is where they start making Joe way weaker and way softer. You meet Maria and all of this stuff too. It was different because it was at the wall. It wasn't grabbing them. But I do like what they added with the dogs and like to smell if was she infected or not. That was really tense, and I was like, oh shoot. But I like that. I like that they did this. I like that they set it up. I don't think they needed to make Joel as soft. He starts to lose, like they starting to establish like his hearing loss there, and that like I do like the connection that they make him with Sarah, seeing him like thinking that he's seen her in the crowd, sort of like playing into that. But the interaction with the brother was just sort of like it was way more argumentative and like way to the point where Ellie ends up just like freaking leaving, and they have to go find her, and that's a whole thing in the game of where it's just sort of like you didn't just go back to the house and then have that awesome dialogue that they had here and that was ripped right out the game. You know, Ellie took a horse and bounced. She was gone.
Oh, okay.
And then you had to go, and then that's when she makes the decision to, you know, we'll do this together, because she was offended that Tom, like Joe was gonna hand her off. And like, but all of that stuff with you, you know, Sarah, and like, you're right, you're not my daughter, and all of the stuff like that, straight out the game, beautifully executed, framed almost exactly like it. Yeah, and then you meet Maria here. Yep, talking about what girlies talk about and putting that distrust in Joel in her head, like, yo, be careful who you make friends with or you trust, and all of that good stuff.
Because like Joel's supposedly this bad guy in her head that like goes, you know, has killed people, but like he's now, you know, you have a relationship with him, so you gotta watch out. Like, this guy's doing for this and that. And she goes, well, Tommy is too, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think they did the best job of making Joel that dude, that bad guy, that killer who turns because of the relationship and closed off because of the loss of Sarah, and who's not going to let anybody else in. They did it a little with Tess, establishing that, you know, we're just, you know, like she goes to hug him and spoon him when they lay down, but he doesn't. He's just there. He doesn't move. Like, he doesn't attach to people because he became a monster to get over the loss of his daughter. It shows like, yeah, we got people that are infected, but humans can lose their sense. Like right in the beginning when he carries the little kid and burns him, like humans don't do that anymore with no emotion. He's emotional. He's a monster. And so the stuff he does through the course of the game, you become aware of that. And I think what they did that I don't agree with, that I don't like this change, and it works, but I don't like it better, is that they softened him up. A lot of the kills that he did, they gave it to somebody else, or that Ellie did, they gave it to somebody else. Like Ellie, for instance. Did we talk about this? Yeah, no, that was last episode. Like Ellie, oh yeah, we skipped over because we got a lot to talk about. That scene in the laundromat in the shootout, which was in the game, really great scene. It was way more bombastic than the show because you're playing it and you do it your way, but it was well done, well shot until the end. And when the kid is just sort of like about to kill Joel and Ellie saves her life by shooting him, that was Ellie went in there and just headshotted him. It wasn't no let me kill her, go hide behind there. Ellie was already rough. She done. She was hanging with Bill. She wanted a gun the whole time. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like, so those are lessons she learned, and then slowly like, but Joe was like, no, I don't want to see that. That conversation Joe has with Ellie after shooting that person, it was sort of like, it was either him or me. Like think about that. Don't think about I killed the person or I don't want you to kill him. You did what you needed to survive. That's the lesson that I'm going to impart onto you, Ellie, that leads into her surviving later, is that what you did was either I was going to be dead and he was going to be alive and you would have been in a worse place, raped, killed, whatever, with the Raiders. But that decision you made, even though how horrible you think it is, was the right one, because I'm here and we can move forward with it. The lesson they tried to teach them is just sort of like, it doesn't make no sense for where they go towards the end of the season. So like when they start changing stuff like that, that fundamentally softens up the character. I don't think it was needed. Did it destroy it? No. It was still fine. It was still good. Some people would say that they could identify more with Joel because of those changes, but I don't think you're supposed to identify with Joel. Joel is a monster. And I think I like the portrayal of Joel overall. And these are later episodes. It's more and more of that. Like them sneaking up on Joel because of the ear wouldn't happen. Joel would have destroyed those two. So how they meet is different, but it's still, it doesn't ruin the show though.
So one thing on this episode that I like completely like freaking like didn't think about at the moment was like she's getting a haircut. You know, she's getting her split ends cut. Maria mentions that she was like a district attorney. They go to the theater. Like she doesn't feel comfortable, but like this is what comfortable used to be. You know, this is like
I
what
know.
people
That's a great
to,
point.
like, take advantage of. She has new clothes. She has this new annoying purple jacket she hates, and she gets like these new shoes, the right size and everything. And it's just like, this is horrible. I don't want any of this. Like I've lived off the whole like concept of like live with what you got. Like I don't want to trade my stuff for other stuff. I want to keep my things because like, I know this works. I know this is it's not even what I like. It's like, this is what I'm living with now. So like, I'll live with it. But these coming to that society of like where we wash our clothes every day or whatever we eat food on a normal basis, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, we have electricity, we talk about movies that we watched. It's all new to her and she doesn't like it. She's like, I want to get away from this and go back to like what me and Pablo do every day, just walk around and just explore, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because like this is paradise right now in the age of apocalypse. Yeah. This is paradise, and she wants no part of it. She wants to continue going to Wyoming.
It's too different for her.
She feels, and this is when you feel like, okay, she believes in her purpose because look, you found a place where y'all can live out the rest of your lives and help the community grow. But she's after the Sam thing. I think she just believes that she needs to, even though I have all of this, this ain't her. This ain't her purpose. We got to keep going. And I think when she finds out that Joel doesn't want to continue with her, that breaks her. Like she's like,
like I don't want to be abandoned.
Yeah, and it's almost abrupt the way it happens here, but in the game it makes more sense because I keep saying it, but in the game it makes more sense because you spend a lot more time with them and the decisions that they made, and she feels Joel could protect her more than anyone. But Joel almost died multiple times in here. He's losing his hearing in here. So like it doesn't hit as hard as like Joel's a badass. And I've seen what he's done up to this point. I've seen what he did in the library. I've seen what he did in the school and all of this stuff. This is the guy that gets me there. Here it's like, yo, Joel, we can't forget, like Joel fell asleep when they were camping outside and she was standing over them protecting him. You know what I mean? And then Sam and Henry snuck up on him because of the glass. So they got caught because of him because he couldn't hear shit. And then like, so when it gets to this moment, it doesn't hit as hard because Tommy can probably protect you better than Joel could ever protect you at this point. So like they establish they teach the audience that they say that Tommy is the one to take you. I mean, Joel should be the one to take you. And Ellie's saying Joel should be the one to take me because he's badass. He protect me this far, but it doesn't line up in the show. And Tommy is a badass. People don't know that yet. Y'all not going to know that for a while. Tommy is a badass. You think Joel is a badass? Tommy is that dude straight up. And so the fact that, and Joel knows it, but Joel is that dude too, but he's so soft right now and so weak and has so many problems because they try to humanize him a little too much, that when this part happens, I'm as an audience, and if I wouldn't have never played the game, I'm like, yo, yes, get with Tommy. He's gonna be able to get you through this way better than I can. But yeah, it still hits hard.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like you see her, like we were just talking about. She steps into paradise. She goes like, well, like, does she ever mention this in this episode? She's like, I want to use my blood in order to save everyone. Does she? Or does she?
No, she just said. I could be wrong, but I think she just says that we have a mission. I want to see this through, and we're gonna keep going. And she's gonna go without Tom. Well, no, in here it's different because she just runs out, and then she goes sees them, and there in the game is more of like, I'll do this myself. I don't need Tommy. I don't need Joe. If Joe doesn't want me, fuck Joe. And if Tommy doesn't really want to take me, I'll do it myself. And she runs and gets caught up on some stuff, and then this plays out. They leave together. It gets to the same point. They do it a little differently, and I still love Pedro Pascal's performance. I just think Joel is an overall weaker Joel in this show than he is portrayed in the game.
Gotcha.
But the horse.
Well, this is also where you get to see Pedro go through like a little bit of a heart scare. No one knows what's going on, or they kind of allude to like he's having a heart condition, but like they don't say specifically, and he doesn't tell anybody about it, which is something that, I feel like everyone that has this much anxiety and doesn't sleep as much goes through. So it's a little weakness in the armor right there, which is cool to see. Like he's not unstoppable, but
I think that you said something really important. Like, I think it does humanize him in a way. I think the weakness does give you something to relate to, that he's not superhuman, that all of this stuff is taking a toll on him. So it might be a little more believable in this rendition as well. But yeah, because I don't hate it. I just prefer the other one. But yeah, I like this. I like this overall scene, and this is where he sees Sarah, right? Where he thinks he sees Sarah in the crowd. Yeah. And it sort of gives him the idea of like, oh, this is how Sarah look if she was older, and he's getting that anxiety if she would have got to grow up. But
episode 6, I give it like probably like 8.5.
Yeah.
But like it's definitely one of those like filler episodes almost, but you do get a lot of like real.
There's a lot of good setup. Yeah.
Yeah. So going to episode 7.
Yeah. I give that one an 8 as well. Like that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 8.
Yep. I think I'm right there with you on that.
Gotcha. Episode 7 is called Left Behind. Its synopsis is: as Joel fights to survive, Ellie looks back on the night that changed everything.
Okay.
You want to start this off?
Sure. So you set up the federal agent is giving her a choice. It's just sort of like, hey, you want to be a stooge where you mop up shit and do the worst type of work, like just a soldier, little dirty grunt, biatch, or do you want to be a leader? You want to, and you could keep fighting girls like whatever that girl named Shannon or whatever her name was that she was fighting. And she really takes that to heart and really starts thinking about it, because this is a flashback. It's based off the DLC of the game, so you don't even know this story until like you beat the game, and then months later they come out with the downloadable content, and then you play through the downloadable content, and it fills in Ellie's earlier years and how she was bitten. So this whole episode is the story of the first time she was exposed to the infected, her relationship with Raleigh, and her life as a Fedra student. And that's Raleigh right there. She sneaks in, and I would have punched. Yo, you don't mess somebody sleeping and you pretend to bite him in an apocalypse. Yo, you probably would have been dead. You don't play like that, but Riley played like that, and then we get introduced to Riley right here, and from here you build out. You found out that she was recruited by the Fireflies, and that she wants to be a Firefly, and then but she used to be a student in Fedra, ran away, became a Firefly. She comes back to let Ellie know that I'm leaving. I'm joining the Fireflies, and it's pretty much just one last night, which I just want to have one last night with my best friend. At this point, they're best friends. It becomes more romantic as the episode goes, and they find feelings for each other. But this is like girls' night out at the mall in the apocalypse, and it was dope. Like everything from video games to The Mask, and there was a different version, like carousels. And yeah, this was well told. And this one was like a filler episode in the best way because it was a filler episode in the game. Like Joel is hurt, right? That happened toward the end of that last episode, right? Joel is hurt, and she's got to find a cure for her, or tries to bandage him up or whatever like that.
Well, Joel says, like, get out of here.
Get
like,
out of here.
Leave me. Like, I don't want you to stay behind and just go live your life. Go back to Tommy. Like, I want you to go back to Tommy. Live the best life.
But And then as they open up the door, I think we flash back to here. Or no. Yeah, we flash back to here. Yep. So the flashback happens because the previous episode, Joel, that's right, that was huge. They get to the college, and they talk about like college things of how it was back in the day. You see the monkeys.
Oh, that's right.
And then they get in it too with some raiders or whatever they may be, or whoever they may be. Tussle, fall out. I think in the game he falls out the window and gets stabbed, and I think in the show he just gets stabbed. And so it leads us to like an episode where she has to figure out what she needs to do or what she's got to do, and this ties into what she ends up doing at the end. So he's out of commission. This relationship is like Riley never gave up. For as long as we have time, we'll spend this last time together. As long as there's hours in a day, we got time to figure some stuff out. So this is the lesson she learns here, and then that's when she decides to continue and stay with Joel. But there's a lot of stuff happen between that point and where we get to towards the end of that. What did you love about or like about this episode?
I really liked how like you get to find out like she did have a best friend like before she got out of it. And like she turns out to like have like feelings for this girl too. So you get to find out like, you know, she has feelings for her, but then like she had like not the best of life, but this girl had like her best, like she had the best of times with her, you know, just because of her. So like you get to see that, and then like the whole dynamic of them just like saying like I would have stabbed you if it was somebody else. You're lucky who you are. That's I thought that was funny. It's like what best friends do, right? Like you punch him in the face, the other guy punches right back in the stomach, and we laugh about it or something. So like you get to see that, and the mall is beautiful because we go to the mall every day or every weekend.
They did such a good job with the apocalyptic mall.
Yeah, you get to see the lingerie where you see Jill go or Ellie go like, "Hey man, what's this about? Like, why would people wear this?"
She don't know like, sexiness. She's trying to process it. She's like,
and something I almost forgot about is the escalator. She goes like, "Oh wow, moving stairs,
moving stairs." Like that, I love it. This was like one of the best like fish out of water episodes of like. Okay, I heard about all of this stuff and I'm seeing it. The effort that Riley had to put in to power this stuff up and then create this one night, like 5 wonders of the mall was super dope. And just going through the different stores and riding the carousel and building up that relationship. Do I have feelings for her? What type of feeling? What am I feeling? Going through all of that, like. I think it was beautifully done, and and you get the pun book that makes a big big moment. Why she likes him so much. She said, "Get out of here! I got." She start reading them. I think it lacked just all of the story, but didn't balance a lot of the action. But that it is to be the case. Like there was one infected at the end that bit him where it was like multiple, and I do like the game because like they had to really fight to get towards each other and get back to each other. And this one just like they said, poetic. They tried to make it more poetic of just one, and they fight off one. And one's a handful, and I get it, but I do. I like the episode. It's DLC, and this felt like DLC in the show too. It felt like, okay, let's add this so we can fill it in. But and it shows that no, there was somebody that she cared about once, and you get to see how and why and what happened to them, and just the nature of like finding out that you're not infected in the mall and watching the person that you think you love or you fell in love with turn and expecting you to turn at any point, and it doesn't happen, and you got to be thinking to yourself, what the fuck? So like that's I think this is a really good episode, and it leads off. Yep. Good.
It's definitely a crazy episode too, because like they're teenagers still, right? I think she's 17 and she's 14, so like they're experimenting and all that, but they're also going through all this without getting the proper knowledge, because like school's teaching them how to kill,
survive.
Then like also you're getting the whole I guess perspective of like them just like they take pictures together trying to be friends, they're trying to like make it work, they're trying to be like is this how the normal, it comes back to like the whole normal life, like is this how they used to live, are we supposed to be doing this, like but like it's natural. I think it's like human instinct where like you want to be friends, you want to like experiment and everything, but in this world it's like a whole different set of rules that doesn't allow you to go forward with it. So I think it's a beautiful episode. Like it definitely feels like what you said, that DLC, that downloadable content episode.
And Jesse said it like, this is the big reveal that, and that's the thing, people didn't really know she was gay until this DLC came out, right? So it's sort of like it was a big moment when that reveal happened. A big I think Storm Reed acted the heck out of this part. She did like great as Riley. Both of them, they were both really excellent, and like their innocence was portrayed. I meant that was shown on screen. I like you get a little backstory on Marlene, and like that she met Marlene and that connection there, knowing that Marlene was the one that put Ellie and Fedra. It all ties stuff in. That okay. It's Anna, Marlene, and then you got Riley who's messing with Marlene, and then you got Ellie that was put in here by and Fedra by Marlene, and that's where they met. And then Riley gets recruited, and it comes back, and then it's like, you're gonna really leave, and all of this. I liked how the pacing of this episode, like how you slowly see them fall into love, how you slowly see her being like the freaking music, the putting the mask on and just dancing with the mask on and just going through all of that. But like hating her, but loving her at the same time. How could you do this? But get over here. It was all good. And then that bite at the end, and when they both reveal that they were bitten, and they have the multiple choice of, how we could do this? We could blow our brains out. He's like, fuck that. I don't like option one. They go to option two, or they was like, we could all be all poetic and shit and just lose ourselves. And I think that was freaking awesome. And it ties into the very next episode of like, yo, we didn't give up. We stayed. And look, I ended up being cured even though she died. But Riley believed in me so much. I believed in us and believed that, long as there's time, that's important. No matter how long, you're going to all die anyway. If there's time, utilize it. So when she gets back to the episode, if there's time, I'm going to try and save Joel. As long as he's breathing, I'm going to try and save Joel, because there is still time. He's not dead yet. And so that whole episode at least led to that. And I think it was like DLC from the game put on screen. It was almost exactly that. Yeah.
So Riley does mention something that stuck with me. She says, it's over, but not yet. So like they get bit, and she like this. I think Ellie says this in a later episode. Like, we know the whole world is doomed already, but like we got to keep going because it's not
Yeah.
over yet. Not at least for us, it's not over yet.
Yeah, yes.
And I was like, kids, man, kids, like,
Kids are
these
optimistic.
Yeah.
They're
But yeah, man, it was a great episode. It's crazy because this got the lowest score out of all episodes on IMDb. IMDb,
really.
yeah, 7.4. It's the lowest scored one.
I can see why. I can see because it feels like a filler. It feels like DLC in the middle of when we're about to go figure. We want to know what happened with Joel and all of that stuff. So then you flash back and asking people to spend a whole episode that gives you backstory but doesn't continue. You end this episode at the same place you are when you finish last episode, and so I don't know if that is the reason or not. But me knowing that this was DLC, I was expecting it, so for me it didn't bother me. But I remember in the game was like, dude, should I play the DLC or not? I'm glad I ended up doing it, but I'm like, I want to get back to this, and I didn't really want to play this episode, and I forced myself to play it, and I was glad I did. But it is a pause. Let me tell you this. After you're done, then we'll continue. Like, you don't even access it in the story. Like in the game, you're going through, and then you have to literally leave the game, know when to leave the game, start it up separately in the UI, play through it, and then continue it. Like, it doesn't even like connect in any meaningful way in the game. It's just a side story.
Man. Those were different times, right?
Different times, baby. But yeah, no, this was better than the last episode for me.
Yeah, me too.
Well,
like I give this like an 8.5. How about you?
Exactly right there with you. Yep.
All right, man. We're closing.
We're
into
almost
the
there.
Yeah. There's still people watching. 12 people watching, man. Thank you guys. Like, we're almost there, but we'll do this for season 2 every Sunday. You know,
one episode. And I think what's gonna happen too is like it'll come up on the replays, and I think a lot of people because this is not really statue content, and that's what the statue people really want.
Funny.
But I think in the replays, I think people who aren't will start. Oh, look, this is they're discussing it. Let's see how wrong they are.
Yeah.
And then let's see.
Better not, man.
Yeah.
We're going to go to episode 8, which I thought was like an episode I was waiting for. Religion in like these type of apocalypse movies always comes up. So episode 8, it's called When We Are in Need.
Mark.
It says, Ellie crosses paths with a vengeful group of survivors and draws the attention of its leader. A weakened Joel faces a new threat.
Yeah. This is where I felt the lack of infected hurt the show for me, but it made up for it when they nailed everything else. Because like right now, we haven't seen infected in a few episodes. And here in this, they decide to do so. David gains Ellie's trust by David saving her life multiple times during an infected horde coming at them, and they protected themselves, and they're like killing Ellie. You learned that Ellie can defend herself now because this is the first time you get to play as Ellie in the game. So it's like you've been playing with Joel the whole time.
Yeah.
You play with Ellie now. Ellie learned some stuff from everybody she's been dealing with. And this put the test. So now they're like back to back with David, and David like, you don't trust him. Nobody trusts him. You're not meant to trust him. But then when he had an opportunity to kill her or let her die to the infected, he saves her life. And, and then he saves her life again, and then she saves his life. They save each other's life by the fact. But the whole thing with the deer was the same and all of that stuff. But they build a relationship through action. It's a video game. It makes more sense. But it also shows that Ellie is capable. Yeah. And it also be like, oh, this was one of the dopest scenes of zombies that would have been awesome to see on screen, but you don't get it. And instead is replaced by a conversation that they gain trust with, which works. But at the same time, this is where you go through a long stretch to the end of it where it just feels like the infected are no more. And I think it's just more of like they did what they felt that they need to set them up, but no, the infected is no longer a major part of their moment-to-moment actions in the story. It's more about getting her to where she needs to be. But I don't think that's as interesting if you don't have infected to get through. And they replace it with humans is the monster too. Mm-hmm. But that can happen at the same time, like it did in episode 5 that we love. The humans can still be monsters, but that doesn't mean that they replace the fucking infected that the story, like that the show is based about. And it makes it seem like, oh look, here's another outport where there's no infected, that they've probably driven underground, and it just wasn't the case. The all of this story was just way more balanced out because of the fear of the infected and what they had to do to get there. Granted, this episode makes up for it because Ellie does some, like, gets put in a situation, and like, yeah, we could break this down. It's just sort of like you meet David and James, who James is played by Troy Baker, who actually voiced Joel in the game. Wow. And so like he's there. What up, Knight? Yeah, exactly. They could have thrown in a couple of infected right here to build that relationship. I think that relying so much on the story and the dialogue, it's fine, because if it didn't affect people who have never played the game, it's cool, it works, but you don't go to the where it could be if they had the effect. Like, I think the game balanced it. Like, think about all of this great story that we're about to talk about from the beginning up to this point, and balance it with action that you probably would see in a motion picture movie that you can watch just for those scenes. And when you remove all of that stuff that you can watch just for, without the story on its own, the action is great, and without the action, the story is still great. But what made it a masterpiece of a game is that it had both. And I don't feel like this show has both. I feel like you got a little bit of it, and people who all they want is the emotional story of it. You get that. But what made it dope is you had that great story and great action, and Ellie being a badass right here, and David being a badass right here, and gaining the trust, and then learning slowly that this dude is fucking loose. And then learning that dude Alex, that stabbed Joel and Joel ended up killing, was the father of the little girl that you meet in the compound. Yeah. Yep. And then talking about, hey, can you bury them? And then she's like, and then David's like, no, we can't bury him. It's too icy out there. But they know something's wrong. And she's like, we're going to get fed my daddy, aren't we? Because they're freaking cannibals. And then they slowly know it. And they like, what is that? Venison. All of them know, but they are scared of David because David is sick. And Ellie slowly realized they're sick. But when you get to that point, it's almost beat for feet for the game, except that you talk about the infected, but they don't show up. And I don't think they show up in the next episode, only in a flashback. And then they don't show up to close out the episode. Neither, I don't believe, or maybe they did. We'll see when we get to that. But
I have a question.
This was a great episode.
So, like, they do mention that the further they get away from the cities or towns or villages, the infected are less common, right? Because they don't. In the video game, it doesn't matter.
No, it's worse because the infected the longer the infected live. So there's tiers. There's runners that you first get bit. That's your transition phase, right? You transition into a runner, and those are the ones that were all connected towards like the second episode, and they run after you, and they're just trying to get you to bring you into the network. They're fast, they're quick, but they stumble. They don't have a sense of stairs and doors, so they just run and fire everywhere. Then you got the longer you go, so the 20-year mark or a little below, a little higher, you lose your eyesight. The fungus takes over everything. That's what the clickers are. They don't need eyes or sight anymore. It's all sonar, like clickers. It's just how they listen for sound, because now they've grown to the next tier. They've been longer. Then you go longer than that, you end up being a bloater. And then that's where we end here. But the farther you out, it don't matter because they can survive more there and they grow to their bigger forms. And they're not explaining why they're not running rampant around right now. Like, they should be running. This little compound can't stop them. That's why they're scared. If not, why are they scared? Why do they move? It's because in the game it established that, look, we need to move because zombie, like infected, could happen anytime right now. Anytime they could pop out, and they do when they're talking during this scene. And that's why it's dangerous. And then later on, even closer to the giraffe scene, they got to fight to get there because it's never like we made it this far, because it wouldn't make sense, because anywhere you made it where you thinned them out, a civilization can thrive. So the further you get out, that means the better it is to just be out in the open. But that was never in the case. It got more and more and more dangerous the further you left the QZ. And that's why you stay behind the QC. Or if everybody wanted to go out, they'd be like, yo, I just got to get past this part and freedom. No, it gets worse and worse. It should be right now. It should be crawling with them. And I don't mean that the action and the infection and the affected should take over the narrative. I just think that it should balance it more so that threat is always there, so that you're constantly reminded of what you're fighting for. That cure is not to save David and his freaking venison. It's to cure the infected. You know what I mean? And then when you start losing the focus of the show, the infected, it still can be a great story. I just don't think it has the same impact as the original story, the original source material. Doesn't mean it's bad, because this is one of my favorite episodes. So I want to clear that. It's still one of my favorite episodes. But this is where I feel that there's room for improvement with the series. And if they do a season 2, I hope they balance it a little more. But yeah, this is crazy. Look at Father David.
It's crazy because like you're like when I think of religion, like, and they come into these apocalypse scenes, I'm like, man, someone's up to no good. Like the leader is always never up to any good. Like he even says it. He says like I'm surrounded by sheep, and I'm like I need someone equal. Yeah. I'm tired of taking care of these sheep. Yeah. I just want someone equal. So he goes up to Ellie and goes like, hey, you're a badass. You're still a kid. I want to teach you everything I know and be my equal. Like these guys are sheep. You're a wolf. You're the next leader. But I also want to. It turns out to be a pedophile too, man. He's like, I want to be.
He was everything that can go wrong in a cult wrapped in one dude. Dude, that dude was like.
And it gets a little bit disturbing to where Ellie goes ham on this guy. Goes like man. You cheer her on, but she goes yeah, for like 20 seconds. I'm like, hey, he had it coming.
Yeah. No, I'm glad they kept this, because this was the trigger that's for Ellie to go full Joel. Like she's full Joel after this point. This is where they roll swap. And after this moment, no, it was crazy, because the axe to the head was right out the game. The finger was right out the game. All of that stuff was so well done. Yeah, the boss fight, because David was a boss fight with the fire, and then you got to go around and pick your spots to attack them. If this is just so good, just the symbolism of like that place burning, and like her humanity is slowly burning. Her childhood wonder is burning with everything as she's just whacking away at the face of it. It is just so well done. And I like what was dope about this in the game, and I think they mentioned, and you know that after the segments they have, like after the episode ends, they talk a little about it. I think there was like, this was where a moment where Joel will come and save the day, and in the game, you're Joel. You play this part, and you do your thing. You save your part, but before this thing happens, it cuts to Joel waking up, and Joel, you're playing the Joel again, but he's a little hurt. You got to get to her. And this is like, oh yeah, I gotta go save Ellie. But in the show, in the game, they was like, this is not Joel coming in to save Ellie. This is Ellie saving Ellie, while Joe gets there just in time to watch it. And that's how you exactly fell in the game. Is like you get in there, I'm like, I'm coming for you, Ellie. I'm gonna fuck this dude up. I'm gonna kill it. And you fighting through all of those people, which then again, there's more action, more gameplay there. But I don't think we needed that. I do think we needed the effect earlier. I don't think we needed that because how they end up this was perfect. Wrap her around and be like, it's me, it's me. I got you, baby girl. And that's the first time he mentioned those words since his daughter, like calling her baby girl.
Baby girl, yeah.
Yep. And so like he's full Daddy Pascal now. And this is at the point where she realized, dude, she didn't give up on me. I got to get to her. And we got to see this through. And that dude is a monster. And yeah, you're dealing with stuff that they just tipping on. That cult right there. I can't say anything. It goes into part 2. But yeah, no. Overall, this was one of my favorite episodes as well. I do think it was light on the infected. They're not infected for infected sake or infected for action's sake. Just more, I like the way they used action to develop that relationship. I think it was a smart way to do it in the game, and I think that it would have worked here just as well, and it would have kept the threat of the infected alive, especially as you end out the series to know exactly what they're fighting for. Because like you said, it seems like, hey, the further we get along, the least amount affected of it, and then that's just not the case, like at all.
Lies.
It should be way worse right now.
You know what's crazy about this? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to say, the further you get from the QC, the quarantine zone, the further you get from that, the worse it is. Like I said, and that's why these exist, so that people don't have to go over the walls and try to go deep out. Because even right around the walls, it's sus. So the more further you go, well, it should be bloaters and clickers. The mouths can they established in the beginning how long they live. There's some that have been around for 20 years. So they're not just gonna die because they don't eat. They're just gonna wait for things to trigger them, and then they're gonna go grab you and bring you in.
Something that caught my eye was like when she finds that, well, she sees the ear. She goes like, that's not supposed to be on the floor. And then she goes like, are you guys eating people? Like, and then he goes like, well, we got to do what we got to do. Like, there's nothing to eat here. And then like, she goes like, there's crazier things going on. Like, you guys could survive off other things. And we're like freaking, you guys are taking this route?
Yeah, like, okay, this is extreme.
Yeah. And then like, I feel like she breaks.
Yeah.
There's like right here in this scene where he's holding her, you could see she's not being that, little stubborn kid where she's sarcastic or like being a teenager.
No.
I'm scared now. Like, I see what it takes to be an adult now. Like, this is not game right here. So episode 8 definitely finished off of a crazy things going on, but this was rated 9.4 out of an IMDb. I give this one probably 8.5. 8.
Yeah, I can see. I talked a lot of stuff about what I would have loved, but this one I probably give a 9 to because the execution at the end of it, and Ellie and then Pedro Pascal, all of it led to where I wanted to lead to. I just needed a little more infected, and it could have been even a 9.5, but I do give it like a 9 because, oh my God, she dude, I like with Henry, like I wanted to destroy. I like get off, or I wanted to destroy David. I just wanted both in the game and in the show. It's just you get to that moment and you're like, how are you gonna do it? And I'm literally like, grown man, like get up, Ellie.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, yeah. So like, I still give it a 9. One of my favorite, with the one that I felt like the reason I critique it harder than a lot of them, because it could have been a 10 on my scale if it would have added that. Like, it could have been a 10 if you would have just added that. And that's what's crazy about this series is like, we're talking about a show that pretty much executed beautifully from all of the episodes, even the one that I gave a 7 to. It's like No, the stuff that I'm saying that
No.
you could have been on like here, like you're already so high. So when we knock it down a little, it's still above a lot of the shit that came out this year. So it's like I still enjoyed this series a lot better than a lot of stuff that came out. But I'm just coming at it from a slightly different perspective. Where like someone like you, it's cool to see your perspective going in, not knowing anything about the game, and then it's almost evening out where we stand with it still. So like it's doing a great job of capturing new people and fans of the game alike. So
I saw this fact the other day. The video game sales for The Last of Us have gone up 180% after this.
oh,
And I
that
was
makes
like,
me so happy.
I gotta buy
Everyone
this game.
should play that game. Everyone should play. I understand people who just don't game, and I love that this exists because this is a great adaptation of it, and it gets the gist of it great. But if you guys can play the game and have a PlayStation 3, 4, 5, whatever version, a PC, the PC version is coming out on the 28th on Steam. Get it and try it. Now that you know the story, it's gonna be it's gonna be a companion to each other. Like I don't think one replaces the other. I just think that if you could only watch the show because you don't play games, awesome. Some people got to experience that. If you played the game and you watch the show, it's a great companion. You get a lot more context in this show that they don't go into in the game as well. So it's an additive experience. Yeah, and if you got access to a console, watch the show, and you're interested, go play part 2 right now. Because some shit happens there, boy. You're like, that's gonna test you. That's gonna test you.
Episode 9 is called Look for the Lights. Synopsis: the
Look
pregnant
for the
Anna
light.
places her trust in a lifelong friend.
Mm-hmm.
Later, Joel and Ellie near the end of their journey.
Yeah.
So it starts off with like this lady that like there's no name to. She's just like running, asking for help, like trying to like escape from an infected. She's going up some stairs. She's pregnant. This is where I go back to like the very first thing I said. These girls, females, women, everything, badass, man. I have a stomach ache. I go up some stairs. I'm like, nope, can't do it. Like, F that.
Yo, let some dude try to do this.
Yeah,
it's impossible,
no.
first of all,
I got a
unless you're the
headache.
Joker. And then, even then, it's like, yo, no, this shows that real women's strength, because I can never ever think about what the birth is. I've seen my kids be born, and I don't wish that upon anyone. You know what I mean? It seems like it's very painful. So the fact that she's about to give birth, get bitten, survive long enough to cut the umbilical cord, wait for somebody to come to make sure that baby's safe, that's that motherly instinct that kicks in. That is believable because people were like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to survive for it. I wouldn't be able to do this stuff.
Hell no.
And even if I could give birth, I'm like, yo, I'm bit. I'm done. I'm done.
No, she gets no. She's not even bit yet. She's like fighting off this freaking infected. She like grabs her knife, like stabs
them. Yep, yeah.
I can't even do that while like being normal weight, normal fit. You know.
Yeah. We
There
find
you go.
out her name is Anna, and like Super Miguel says, she's played by Ashley Johnson, who voiced Ellie in the game. So the symbolism here is crazy
It's
because you
insane.
got Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie, who gave birth to the character of Ellie, gave it life through her performances and her voice, giving birth to Ellie in the show. Like, that's so crazy to me. It's just like, and she killed it too. I don't know why she's not in more stuff. Like, she was excellent. And she sounds just like Ellie, where it's like, give them hell, Ellie.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
exactly what I was hearing.
dude,
I
it's
was like,
yo.
yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Crazy opener, and then you find out like Ellie is going through the trouble of like, you know, she almost got raped, she almost got killed, she almost got like part of this whole clan thing. Like she's like not her happy self. She's definitely like I said earlier, she's broken. She's definitely hit that point where she's broken now. She doesn't want- she's like, I don't know if this is all worth it anymore, but they see a giraffe. Yeah, this will bring me to right here.
Not, that's straight out the game.
Yeah, I saw. That's really cool. Yeah.
Yep. No, so like, yeah, I love this. This is Joel trying to, like, he's Ellie now. He's like, oh wait, to go back a little bit, like, yeah. So we never found out about Anna in the game. So this was awesome to see. Like, okay, so what had happened was she got bit while she was giving birth, and so somehow the infection was able to get the I forget what it's called.
Yeah, from the umbilical cord.
It's the counter, whatever the counter agent is. They have a specific name for it in her bloodstream, so that it tricks the infected to think that she's already infected. Like so. And so that's the whole root of what they want to get out of Ellie's brain is to get but you got to go through her brain matter to get it. But that's the key because it tricks they can get a cure. They hope they could get a cure that tricks the infected to think that you're already infected. So you will never change. Well, it'll stop it from going through your body from spreading because, we got you already. So that's the whole thing. And we never seen that in the game. So the fact that we was able to get that and meet Marlene for the first time and see Marlene, and not for the first time in the show, but the first time they meet. Well, not the first time they meet. First time we get to see Marlene and Anna together because you only got a little letter in the game. You never get to see that. And
so
then
you're
she's
saying
like,
the show got one over the.
Yeah, right here.
The show got one? Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think the show got a couple. Episode 1 and 2, I think, was really it's up there. It's comparable. And this one added something that was additive. And guess what? It had an infected at the heart of it, right? It's the heart of it, like the infected heart of it. So she gets bit. And and you transition to these scenes and you're like, okay, now we know more about Marlene. We know about, take my baby. And she's like, no, I don't want to take my baby. She's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And she has to kill her best friend. One of her, like, that was dope. So that was good to actually see that play out.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, if I was her best friend, I wouldn't be able to do it as a guy.
Oh,
Girl,
man.
she was like, shh.
I couldn't do it to you, Kaja. You would have been turned.
See? Yeah,
you would have been
we were
turned.
boys. I was like, we were boys. But no, these girls are no mercy, man. Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, that's my. Oh man.
So it progresses, like they pick up Ellie and Pablo. They take them to their hospital. Like Pablo is like, "Hey, where's Ellie?" And then she's like, "We got her in with the doctor, and we're gonna, do our experiment on her to see if she's we could create a vaccine from her." They have theories, like whatever.
Yeah.
Pablo's like, "Well, what's it going to take?" And like you were mentioning, they're going to do surgery, and he was like,
"Nah, son,
that's my girl."
Yeah.
It's scary, man.
Oh man, no, this right here was an excellent dialogue exchange of like, oh man, thank you for bringing it here. It's like I couldn't have done this. I had squads of people, and we barely made it, and you did it by yourself. Like we appreciate this. What are you gonna do? She's being prepped for surgery. Finds out that she's already under, and then it slowly goes on and be like, she's gonna die. Does she know? And then this is when she realized that, this is not a job for him anymore. He really cares about her. She's talking to her freely like he's old smuggler Joel, don't give a fuck about nobody. So she let out some information that she probably wouldn't have done if she would have known that there was an attachment there. So then J. Adam escort them out, and then just like the game, he goes ham. He just shoots up women, children, doctors, nurses, keeps a couple of nurses. This is what people don't realize. It was like they think you had to kill everybody in the game. You didn't. You could have left the nurses alive, but you could kill them if you want. And most people killed them because they thought they had to. The doctor you had to kill. The doctor is a very, very, very important character that Joel ends up killing. But nobody knows that into part 2, so we'll leave that there. But man, what did you think about the choice of like, not only killing every Firefly in this facility that had some of the smartest people left on the planet, because Fedra's not interested in science anymore. They're interested in survival. Fireflies, and people don't know, I don't think this was well developed in the show. Firefly is not just a terrorist organization. They believe in science still and getting the smartest people around. And what you're seeing is the people who protect them to allow them to do that stuff. But that doctor was one of the smartest people left on the planet that he ended up killing. So Joel kills all of the Fireflies, all of the smartest nurses and doctors left in one facility.
This is the way.
This is the way, Mandalorian. For one, and doom everybody else out of a potential cure for Ellie. Would you have made that choice?
Yes. Like, I feel like I had to say yes automatically because that's what he did. He was like, no, not thinking about this. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
That's my baby girl right there. You know, like anything for his baby girl. It's because you got to remember, man, like they're 20, 30 years deep into this infection and like everything going around like this. Mm-hmm. He knows what like is going to come of it. They're gonna make it into a weapon. They're gonna sell it, and they're only gonna reserve for the rich and their people. You know, so he's like already like we're already dead to begin with. Like I'm gonna skip all of this. Like he basically like he's lived through all this. Like he lost his daughter, and now he's become a murderer, and he's trying to protect all these people, and then he becomes a murderer again. But he fast forwards all of it to where he's like. Yeah, I don't know. I would say yes. Like I definitely take the same route he did. How about you?
So one more follow up. So like he knows
left out details.
He knows all of that shit that you said because he's been through it. So he knows there's a chance, like Marlene said, she can get raped and killed at any time because the infected is like. That's what I mean about like it made it seem like the infected was just. I'm free of them. Like we're in a place where there's very little of them. But no, they can leave this compound, get flooded at any time, and she could die. Whereas if they would have gave her that cure, and I'm not saying which way I go because I will let you know after. But like, I just think this is the most fun part about the game because after this, we talked about it. It was like that decision. Would you have done it? So yeah, knowing all that, is your decision the same? And not trying to there's no right or wrong in this situation, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that kind of changes it though, you know? I don't know, man. If I had that relationship with her, like she's almost my daughter, like and going through
almost, but she ain't your daughter, but she's almost.
She's not yeah. Like, let me get a blood test. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, man. I feel like I need more I did like that scene though.
Are you a parent?
Everybody. He goes Punisher style on everybody. I'm not a parent.
So for me, the answer is easy. If that was my daughter or anything resembling the closest, it changes. And I think that's the whole goal of it. And I think they mentioned in several occasions, it's like, you don't make rational decisions. You make rational decisions based when the situation is rational. But when it's to happen to you, or a loved one, someone you love, all of that goes out the window. You don't make them. He's like, until something happens to you and your emotions are tied to it. So like for me, like I could easily put one of my daughters in that situation and react just like Joel did, right? Because I'm not thinking rationally at that point. That's my baby girl there. That's my little girl. So like, it's not a guarantee. And so if it's not a guarantee, we're not even entertaining this. You know what I mean? She could die on that table and nothing happens and I lose my daughter. And I think that's what the show tried to set up, that those moments, no matter how small, are those moments that we live for. So like just to say no without guarantee, even though could be rapists and smugglers, all of that, there's no guarantee of a cure, but there's a guarantee that I could spend a little more time with my baby girl. That's the only guarantee. So I would have did the same thing Joel would have went. This is the way. Give me a and in the game you get a flamethrower, and I sure as hell used the flamethrower on the nurses, the doc. Get away! I was like killing everybody in there, dude. It's crazy.
Sam, you asked me if I have kids. Like I said no. But I should have asked you, what would have the wife said? You know, like if she found out you got asked that question, you were like, nah, like, you know, for the better good, for the rest of the world. She would have like shot you in the head.
No, my wife. If she was put in that situation, she would have probably made the same decision as Joe. I would think I'm going to ask her that. Oh, you're saying like if...
No, I'm saying she found out you were, you know, asked that question and you thought about it. She'd be like...
Oh, she'll be the one that shoot you. I'm dying either way. So it's like... but yeah, I think that game and the show, I think the game did it a little better. Built that you lived with Ellie every step of the way, and when you wasn't, you was Ellie. So like you see that relationship grow and grow and grow. Oh, I just think it's as simple as he couldn't lose a daughter again, and I don't think he was thinking of anything else. That's exactly it. Like Ellie became his daughter, and you seen the switch when we first got to the facility, and I'm like, he's offering her like. He's trying to say jokes or bring out the joke book, and Chef Boyardee, and she's reacting to him like Ellie was, like Joe was. It's swapped. The role just swapped, and she's becoming hardened, and that's why the giraffe thing was so important, because it's so like, man, this is her. She's still in there. She's still in there. Like she's still a little girl. And I think that moment right there, because at first she was stubborn. She was like, I lost her. Look at her. She's lost. Then the giraffe, she's giggling again. Okay, there's hope. He takes that hope into that facility when he wakes up, and then just mollywops everybody, because she's not changed yet. There's still hope for her. There's still purpose outside of the cure. But then something else happens. He fucking lies to her.
Yeah.
He lied. Do you think that was smart?
I don't know.
What would you do in that situation, Casual?
Man, so he took the route of killing everybody for her. And now he's just trying to erase anything that goes back to that moment where it's like what Jesse said. Like it really should have been Ellie's decision, and both Marlene and Joel didn't give her a choice. Ellie thought all they were gonna do was draw blood from her. So
that's a great point.
Damn it,
hey, but no, I ain't giving you my daughter. Shut up. You don't know no better.
I know.
You don't know no better. Like as a dad, that's where my head at. You're a kid. I know what's best for my daughter, and you coming at it from there. But Jesse's absolutely right. You would want to give her the choice, but I am going to make it so that I don't think she could make that choice and rationalize it in my head. So I'm gonna make that choice from her, because both Marlene and Joel was technically wrong, but right and wrong goes out the window when it's love involved and it's your kid involved. And then I would want to say I want to make the Jesse decision, but in the moment, like, nah. Nope.
I don't know, man. So lying to her, I don't know if it was the best thing to do, because, you know, if you think about it, if he didn't lie, if he told her the truth, she would have battled with him for the rest of their lives, or she would have went like, I'm going back. And like, you know, wasting her life again.
Very observant.
It's crazy because Pablo is like, I want her to live the rest of her life with no fear anymore. Like, don't think about she's the future. Like, we don't need her, like, for her blood. Because he basically told her, like, there's others like her, you know?
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to feel like
there was tons of them. It didn't work. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. The weight is way off her shoulders now. She could breathe peacefully. Like, she could sleep again and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I feel like I would. I don't know if I would. I think I would lie to her.
I don't think I would have lied to her. But I say that with knowledge, knowing the future. So I
That's not fair.
yeah, and so it's not fair for me to say it. I'm trying to think back at the moment that I think that was smart. I do think it was an interesting choice and that I wanted to see how they handled it, and they do handle it in the game. But like, yeah, I think the linchpin of everything going forward is the lie more so than the action. And I honestly think that if you got access to a PlayStation 4 or 5, that you should just play through the second game, dude, because that's going to right from the beginning is going to set the tone from it. What this show and the game did brilliantly, it made you make decisions that you probably, some people might agree with, some don't, but you see the perspective and you could be like, you can argue the perspective. Part 2 takes that and times it by 1,000, that you start doing things and then you're like, whoa, I did some bad shit. And then you see from another perspective, like, they probably wasn't that bad and I probably shouldn't have done that. And I didn't know this person had a dog. And I'm not like, it's crazy, dude. It is so good. And from the beginning to the end. And I know a lot of people don't like it and they have their reasons for not liking it. Part 2 is one of my favorite games of all time because of because I just didn't have any of the emotion tied to all of the knowing anything about the rumors or the leaks or anything. I felt pissed playing that game. I was angry playing that game. And then I got like relief playing that game, and I seen other people's perspectives playing that game, and nothing made me go through the emotion. And I think a lot of people felt that anger and that piss and probably stopped playing after that and was just like, I can't even like this. I'm done after this. But I think they play with that so much in 2 that it is freaking ridiculously crazy how a game can make you feel, dude. And it's all the emotions. It's anger, it's sad. So I can't wait to see how they tackle 2. And I think 2 is going to be split from 2 seasons because the first game, the second game, one perspective is as long as the whole Last of Us 1. You doing 2 perspectives, you doing like epilogues, and you doing additional stuff that every time you think it's over, it goes and you be like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to play as this character. And it's so like, I shouldn't like this character to like, you my girl, I got you. You my dude, I got you. Like it's that type of shit. And I think they're gonna show one perspective for season 2, for season 2, and another perspective of part 2 in season 3, because there's just so much content there. But chat, what did you guys think about this too? And Casual, you can finish it out, your thoughts and all of that good stuff.
Definitely, man. But really quick, Gabe says, nah, Joel went too far. He's selfish and didn't think about anyone but himself. The fate of humanity was at stake. Their lives are insignificant compared to the grand scheme.
I love that people can have that perspective, man.
Joel lied like how parents lie to their children to protect them.
Yep.
Jerry says, but also you don't know how long it would have taken to make a cure like that. Look how long we've been researching cures with no success. Dang.
I agree.
Yeah. And it wasn't a sure thing they would make a cure based on think a cure can be made. Yeah. Part 2 probably pissed off more gamers than any other game did.
Yes, I agree, Mark. Yeah, so they confirmed it. That's dope. Yeah, I think that's smart because that will be the longest season ever if they want to do it right. And I'm glad that they're splitting it up in 2. But yeah, dude, I'm glad the show worked for you, Casual.
Yeah, being from like someone or looking at it from like someone that's never played the game or like try to get into like those. There's YouTube videos like there's YouTube videos out there like that give you like a little brief. They play it for you basically. I haven't looked at any of those, so I went into the show without knowing anything about the game or even playing the game. I love the show. My score
Yeah.
for this one overall 9.2, 9.3, like almost 9.5.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yep,
man.
yep. No, I'm with you. I had all of the knowledge of the game. I seen the first trailer, and I'm with you. Like I had my friends calling me up. Oh, who's that? They didn't watch Game of Thrones. Like that don't look like Ellie. Who's that? Who's that girl for whatever reasons? And I'm like, you put some respect on Lady Mormont's name, dude. That's all you need to know. But I was so from the first trailer, like they showed her walking on the board, like seen straight out the game, and I'm like, oh, this is looking like they taking it seriously. And then episode 1 and 2 had me hooked. 3, I thought was beautifully shot, and I do like the characters that they showed, but I do think it was less impactful than what the game could have had. And then it just stayed consistent from there. And then I do think the lack of infected hurt the
Overall.
show, but not in a way to where it sucks or it's bad. It was so good that it just made it. It was so great that it made it really good for me when they dropped it. But overall, I'm with you. And it's one of those endings that, looking at different people's perspective, it's cool that everyone would be like, no, he was wrong for doing that. Or if I was a parent, and if you notice that back in the day when we talked about it, like people who played the game and didn't have kids or whatever, they had a different. They were like, nah, he shouldn't have done that. That was dumb. I wish I would have had the choice to do that, which is cool. And then all of the daddies and mommies playing that game was like, yeah, Joe, you get your baby girl. Go get don't come back home until you get your baby girl. And I'm excited because part 2 was announced, and then it was so divisive. So for me, I ended up loving the characters that they introduced. I end up understanding some of the controversial decisions that they made, and I'm wondering how many people who never watched the show is gonna, if they lead off how they lead off with that game, is going to stick with it or bounce just because of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to play part 2. I want to play the remake of part 1 again when it comes out on PC the 28th, and then I want to play through part 2 again, because like they tightened up the gameplay. It's a much better gameplay experience than 1. But part 1 updated it with that new gameplay mechanic and put it out as a remake on PlayStation 4. But when I found out it was coming out on PC, I was like, I'm gonna wait for that one. Put all of the graphics up. But yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it. 9. I give it a 9.1, 9.2 ish. Like, this is a show that could have been a 9.8 to a 10 with a little more affected. The fact that only dropped you down to 9.1, 9.2 means that y'all killed everything else.
I know, right?
Y'all killed everything else. Hey, I'm with you always, Sonny. It's part 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I love part 2. So when I found out it was divisive, it was only people I would talk about on the internet. But all my friends who played it that I knew in person was loving this game, like loving it. But then you'll hear like the chatter online about why they didn't like it. And I'm like, that's their perspective and I respect it, but I just had a different one. Like part 2 is better than part 1 for me personally. Like I love it.
I love the conversation we had today. We're hitting 3 hours. It's like a regular Statue Tuesday.
I know all these episodes.
But I'm also glad that everyone stick through. There was like a constant number of people sticking through. It's 3 hours. We talked about 9 episodes in 3 hours. You know, if we did this per episode, probably been like 20 hours. But like season 2, we gotta do this again. You know, like every Sunday, every Friday, whatever it comes out, do it every.
No, I had clipped some stuff, and then when you realize that, dude, when we was like, oh, we're doing all of it instead of episode by episode, I was like, nah, that would have been 6 or 7 hours, dude. We'd be like, okay, now let's look at this scene real quick. It was like, boom, your pictures was perfect because we were just able to see it up and it sparked some more conversation. That's a great question.
You think they will recast some characters to age them up? I hope not. I think Ellie should remain the same, but because like in the game, does she like progress like a lot? Like does she age up?
I think they need to age her up. I think if she looks like the same size she is, depending on how big she is when they go to shoot and how more adult she looks, she's actually a little older than what she's playing, so that may work. But Ellie's different. She's grown now. You know what I mean? I don't see it in her current state, but if they start shooting in a few years, which I hope they start shooting now, then I think personally they need to age her out. Not because I don't like the actress. I think the actress is great, but I want them to. They go into some stuff, and the person they introduce that's going to be her rival, it won't be believable if Ellie's that same size. Like really? It won't be. She can play Ellie. Like the age is there. I don't know if the physicality is there, and I know Jesse respects what I'm talking about, knows what I'm talking about there, because if she can play it off bigger, yeah, she's like tough. It's tough. She knows the character, but that's like, it's a big time jump, and Ellie looks completely different than she looked in the first game. Her size is different. She's hardened. And I think as an actress she could do it, but if they are being true to who her rival is, that rival will mollywop this version of Ellie. It won't be believable in the slightest way, like at all. Like there's no way that this version, if she stays the same size, can even get close to competing and being believable. That's my only take. And acting wise, yeah, it's hard to beat her, but not where they're going.
Look at this guy. He says, between you all and Collector Sable, you guys kept me entertained for half my shift. Much appreciated.
That's what's up, Jerry.
Hell yeah, man. Jerry, if you ever want to join, man, like definitely join in. But thanks for watching us. To close it off, Sam, thanks again for having this. I know it's a lot. It's like 3 hours and a lot to like go over. But man, I really appreciate it. And like always, like we got to do this again. If you want to do another TV series or another movie, I'm always down.
Dude. This was fun. Like movies, shows, and games is my first passion, and statues that I get are based off of that stuff. Like because I want to get that stuff. So this was the quickest 3 hours I ever.
I know, right? I was like looking at the time. I was like, no way.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we definitely got to do this again. It was fun, and I love the format too that you had of just being able to break it down. It allows us to just get into it. Overall, it's for me. Last question, then we get out of here. How does this rank in your overall video game movies of all time?
That's a good question.
Or movies or shows? Does it top Super Mario Brothers, Street Fighter? There's only one that gives it competition for me. I would be interested to know what yours is.
Mortal Kombat. There's Mortal Kombat was good. I like Mortal Kombat. I've never played this game, so I can't give a score on this one. Or
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. No, I never played Last of Us, so I can't.
Oh, Last of Us. Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, no. So Mortal Kombat is Mortal Kombat 1 was my favorite video game adaptation.
I love that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Until this show. This is the show that dethroned it. But Mortal Kombat was I'm like, oh, Scorpion said, come and get over here. Yeah. I'm scared to watch that again. I haven't watched it so long. But then Mortal Kombat 2 came out and I was like, oh my God, it said it all backwards. Yeah. But no, this is fun.
Yeah, man. If you guys want, like later in when you guys rewatch this, or whoever rewatches it later, yeah, in the comments, if you guys could leave an answer for this one. What's your favorite? Well, did you name yours already? Like this game or this has been so far?
Oh yeah, no, this game, yeah, Mortal Kombat was the original.
Gotcha.
And then this one dethroned it. And everything else as video game adaptations, I don't think is even worth even. You had things like Assassin's Creed and World of Warcraft, but none of them were like really. This was the most faithful adaptation. Period. I think it almost in all media where they added context and left the core of what works there. Like I said, I had some nitpicks with it, but I think like seeing word for word dialogue staged in the exact same looking room and the exact same apocalyptic, beautiful ruins of a world, traversing through it, seeing your clickers come to life. I think this is like the most accurate, most handled with love video game, or probably like comic book. Because think about it, some of my favorite comic books are not anything like the source material. Infinity War, Civil War is nothing like the comic. It's just they did a good version of it. But this was actual, a lot of this was word for word dialogue and pacing with something that already worked, and just everything they added to it. So I think overall, like, not saying it's the best out of all of that, I'm saying it's the best adaptation that was true to the source material while being additive at the same time. And bringing in Neil Druckmann, who directed it, that was responsible for the game, and working collaboratively with Craig Mason, I believe his name went, or Mazin. Let me see what his name. Craig Mazin was great. And a shout out to Bruce Straley. Bruce Straley actually came up with a lot of this stuff. He co-created and wrote and built the world with Druckmann. But when you leave a video game company, they don't have to credit you. But he was responsible for a lot of what you see. And you just mentioned Druckmann because he's not at Naughty Dog and not at Sony anymore. And whatever you make, just like the statue sculpting community, if you make something for Sideshow, they don't have to, or for XM, it's their property. It's theirs. They could credit who they want with it. They don't have to credit you. So that happens in video games. But Bruce Straley was a big, huge, you could go back to interviews of him creating a lot of these characters and their direction and tone of what they're going to be. So much love to Bruce Straley. I didn't forget about you.
Well, Sam, thanks again, Jesse, Sunnyvale, Caesar, Jerry, everyone that's tuned in today, Mark, like a bunch of people like joined in tonight, like Walton, everybody, Super Miguel. Thank you guys. We'll do this again, like on a different series.
We'll find something. There's gonna be plenty of movies that come out that we'll probably watch, and shows that we'll get into. But yeah, I'll do this anytime you want to do it. Casual, this is great.
Man, definitely. And everyone, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll give you back your time. And
I'm gonna eat breakfast for the first time.
I know, right? See you guys.
Peace.